testing. Is that audible? Is that on? Roll call to determine a quorum.
Mrs. Angela, District B, Mrs. Angela Taylor.
District A.
District A.
Here.
District B, Mr. Charles Bradford.
Here.
District C, Mr. James Green.
Here.
District D, Mr. Derek Green.
Present.
District E, Mr. Howard Locke. Absent.
Let us stand. Heavenly Father, we give thanks to you for another opportunity to bring glory to your name. We want to ask that you will help us to yield and surrender our will to your will. We ask that you will look upon our community as our community faces the tragic loss of lives of Marquez Crowder and Derek Morgan. We ask that you will bless these families to feel the comfort of your warm embrace and a community that's grappling with the whys. We ask that you will help us to stand united and support one another with love, and remember the reason for the season is that you gave your only begotten Son that we may have a right to the tree of life. These blessings and others we ask in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And that brings us to item number 3, public comments as they relate to items on the agenda. Louisiana open meeting laws provides that the public has the opportunity to address this board prior to our taking action on any item on the agenda. Today's meeting, members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak on any item before a vote is taken. You will be afforded 5 minutes to make your comments, and the entire public comment period will be limited to 30 minutes unless an extension is granted. This is not a question and answer session where you can ask questions and demand answers of the board members, mayor, or city employees.
Thank you. Good evening. Ricky Allen Anderson, Bastrop Louisiana. I want to say this before the board, before I continue. I have always come with a humble heart, and I will do that in the process as I go forward. I'm here to talk about 3 items on the agenda: 9B, 10A and B, and 11B. 9B, unfinished business, discussion, action, city hall repair report, American Rescue Plan, and an insurance response. In regards to that, the city hall repair report, I guess we're talking about the air conditioning units and the roof. Let's go with the insurance response. We're using too much money, and we got insurance to cover these things that already have insurance taxed to it. To the American Rescue Plan, there's been so much figure been thrown out, the $3.some million to $2 million. The public don't know. So when we ask questions, you say we can't ask, but you don't have to answer. So I'm gonna ask the question. We need to get that in order. How much money the American Rescue Plan has given the city of Bastrop, Louisiana for the 24-25 fiscal year. Move down to 10A, ordinance 244280, an ordinance required monthly financial statement and other financial information to be provided to the city, for the Bastrop City Council. This is an introduction. Not understanding this, but if anybody is on the financial board, which is this board here, the council, and the CPA, who the council has hired as a financial advisor about public funds. If nobody is in that capacity other than the board and doesn't have a CPA license, I will reject that. I'd like to go down to 10B, Resolution 24-2083. The District Fire Chief, Mr. Crowder, thank you, sir, for your service very much. We appreciate that. 11B, permission and engaging in service to Mrs. Laura Hart, American Rescue Plan Consultant. I believe in my heart that you are taxpayers' supervisors. You oversee our taxpayer dollars. So you're the one should be deciding on how they're supposed to be spent. I don't think it'd be necessary to hire a consultant to come in and tell us how to spend our money, and that's what we elect you all to do. That's what the law states. Let me read you something from your home rule charter about financial. Ordinance Section 24, Annual Financial Statement. The mayor, board of alderpersons shall publish in the official journal before December 31st of each year a statement showing the amount of tax and other money collected during preceding calendar or fiscal year, giving each source of income and the amount expenditure in detail, stating for what purpose was made. The statement shall show resource, indebtedness, and the municipality at the beginning of the fiscal year and at the closing, and it must be spreaded among the minutes of the board. I'm waiting to find out when that will be published for the years out, pertaining to how much money this board has spent for the fiscal year 2024-2025. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
All right. Mr. Green, did you want to, for us, the American Rescue Plan, you asked about how much money that was received?
Yes, sir.
If I remember serving correctly, I think it was $5 million back in 2021, I want to say.
Mr. Green, thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Coleman. I live at 307 Spruce Street. I am, can you hear me now? Okay. I'm still wondering, when are we going to fix Martin Luther King South? I don't know if it's on this agenda or not, but I know I have been in here with the lady, Ms. Hill, and I have spoken on this right here with you all, and you all will fix one side, but you didn't fix the other side. And I go to church down there, New Jerusalem number 2, and it's really a problem, and I just want that fixed. And it's more things that I have talked to Dee Dee about and talked to the mayor about, but that right there is something that I really, really want fixed right up in that area. It's real bad, and I would hate for me to drive my car down there and it messes up. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think with Martin Luther King South, we received some information about it. Devin, what was it? Like, you know, when Ms. Hill kept coming in here, it was something that we supposed to make oil belong to the parish.
Correct. There was a. Let me get close. Make sure I'm on. So there was a survey that was done that is, I believe we actually have a copy of that survey. I believe they staked it also to denote where it was. I think we own portions of the road and not other portions of it. There is some issue regarding maintenance of it. The police jury maintains it. I think at some point we had maintained parts of it, but it's a co-owned thing. I'd have to ask Mr. Oils, who is maintaining it. I know that sometimes we have state roads that come through the city, sometimes we have parish roads that come through that they take care of because they have grant money. It would be down to who is over care and control of that road. I think Mr. Oils would probably be able to answer that better than I was, but I do recall the issue with, we did have it surveyed, we did have it staked. They were able to determine exactly where the lines were based on the property maps. It it's just down to who has care, custody, and control over maintaining it.
Okay, but can I say something else? This is Bastrop, and Bastrop is not big, and I don't feel like we should be trying to say somebody own this, somebody own that. This is Bastrop. Our streets need to be fixed. Here it is off now, we got a street already paved down there, but the street that we've been talking about all this time, coming up here and everything, nothing has been done about it. So something needs to be done about this street. Thank you.
Mr. Orms. Thank you, Ms. Calder. Those comments from Mr. Orms, where the survey on the road is at Peters Alley, is that portion, and anything beyond that. Go ahead with the survey that Mr. Messenger conducted.
Yes, we had the property surveyed from Peters Alley south to Nass, belongs to the parish. And that's where the line crosses the road.
Okay.
Point of information.
Go ahead, Mr. Gray.
Outside of it, have we fixed it?
We maintain our portion.
Have we did our portion?
We maintain our portion.
No, that's my point is, have we fixed the poor part that we own, that's inside the city limits? Have we fixed that portion?
As far as I know, we have. I mean, we haven't paved anything.
That's what I'm asking, have it been paid? Have our portion been paid?
No.
We probably need to act on this, at least fix our portion. And I know Ms. Armstrong has a valid complaint. We can't answer for the police jury, because we know they own part of that, but we definitely are accountable for our section. We need to do something about this.
And for the record, I just talked to Mr. Coleman about it, I'm gonna reach out to Jay Mitchell, who's the police jury attorney, for them. He's an assistant district attorney, but he's also the Morehouse Parish Police Jury Attorney. I'm gonna determine what they've been able to determine with it, and then go forward and try and give a report back as to, some history regarding it and what's going on. And if, it sounds like half was done, so somebody did something.
If I can, help you, counsel, that basic in at my district, and then Mr. Locke's district, in there together.
Any help works, I think all.
This has been discussed for years now, the surveys, and I'm familiar with them. Of course, it had, we fixed our part. We patched it, we put some, tied it, but it's not really fixed properly. While we were discussing this particular street, I like, we have $5.some million street and drain repair. I like to ask that Martin Luther King, our section, we can't speak for the parish, but that our section be, that be put in that $5.some million we have, that Martin Luther, some of that money be allocated to do whatever we need to do to our part of Martin Luther King, and hopefully that we can coordinate with the parish and make the whole street look good. But that's something that has to be discussed between the parish and the city. But our part, we need to do. It needs to be put in our budget for next year to start fixing on streets and drains. We got $5.some million. And I think that street should be a priority, along with a lot of other streets throughout the city of Bastrop, because we do have problems. But Martin Luther King definitely should be one of them for 2025. Our part, we're gonna speak for our part. We hope that we can work with the police here and combine it together, make it a combined effort, and make the whole street look for gentlemen, for us safe. That's, cause we've been back and forth with this. Can I get a motion that we allocate, that Martin Luther King be made part of the street funding for next year?
I don't think you have to do a motion, because you get to decide what streets.
That's correct.
Okay, then, well, that's fine, thank you. Let's go, I'll be here in June, I know for sure.
That's it.
Okay, and we're gonna be working hard, we'll be a priority.
That's that street tax that you have that has the list that comes through each year that we had this year.
We got about, like I say, up to Peter Alley, and come on out to Commerce.
Each council member, selected a street, and 5 streets were completed districts, and they had their own rubric they used to make an analysis on which streets, population, and all those things factored in. So we were able to do 3 more streets, Rosina, Jackson, and Eastwood. So that came through a special grant. So when we get ready to let out for bids, the next round, and district, Martin Luther King is in.
Partially my district.
Partially
Yeah,
yours.
partially mine, partially
And
Mr. Locke.
part of Mr. Locke. Okay.
That's the boundary line right there.
Mayor, if you don't mind, can you speak on those 3 streets that fell under that grant?
Okay.
When will they be finished? If you don't
Oh,
mind.
well, they're having to shoot the camera to see if the sewer lines have been repaired. And that way, when they are overlaid, you wouldn't have to tear it up if you find you got some sewer problems. So they're being graded, and Jackson Street, your street, is currently being worked on right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
When will Eastwood be working?
Eastwood is coming up. It's in the grant. It's just when as they move through the process of evaluating each street.
Have no track.
It's in that grant.
What's the next one?
Call me and ask me the same question. Okay. All right, thank you. That brings us to, announcements. The Christmas toy drive has been going exceptionally well. We want to thank the hospital for joining in with us. And on last Friday, it was partying with a purpose, and we received a whole bunch of toys. Chief Williams, Chelsea, and myself, we've gone out, we've raised money, and I think we're going to be able to help a lot of children this Christmas season. And in looking at the list, it appears that there were more older children that were on the list. The list is, the school system makes the determination in all fairness, and that way it's not like those of us who are raising the money are picking out who we want. We let them select the ones in the greatest of need. So I want to thank the hospital, our corporate sponsors, Bond, Toyota, Simmons Sporting Goods, Spires Medical Clinic, DG Foods, and then other donors who have dropped off toys. And I just want to say thank you to everybody on behalf of this endeavor. It has really been a good project. Are there any other announcements?
Yes, I have 2.
Go ahead.
December the 22nd, myself, Ashley Gates, Mahogany Hatfield, and Essen Gates, we doing a Christmas dinner at Keystone. It's going to be 1602 East Madison Avenue between the hours of 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. where anyone can come, get a plate, and leave. And my second announcement would be, I'd just like to give kudos to, I was invited to Body and Soul Christmas dinner, Christmas party over the weekend. Yeah. And in there they announced that they gave away $250,000 in bonuses for their employees. And I just want to say that's remarkable. Yeah, they, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Green said instead of them keeping the money, they gave it to their employees for, as a bonus, and that was like, wow. So I want to say kudos to Body and Soul. So anybody see them, y'all should tell them the same thing, because they're doing some wonderful things with their employees.
To my right, any announcement? Okay. That will, Mr. Green? Okay. Number 5, I accept previous minutes, special meeting November 6th and regular meeting November 14th. I'll entertain a motion. Oh, wait, okay.
I wanted to say something about maybe a correction here.
Yes, sir.
The minutes are not numbered. If you got your packets in front of you, they page, let's see, 1, 2, 3, the full Locke seconded it, and I think we voted on it, and we were waiting for someone to get back with her. Maybe that needs to be correct, I'd like to have that corrected in a minute, that the motion were made, second by Mr. Locke, and voted on by the council. It's saying here that it died for lack of a second. That's the, you have that, that's the third page, like they're not numbers, I never seen many not numbers, but that's, I'm gonna just count the pages to the council who has it.
Which meeting was that?
Which meeting, that's the one, the first one here, that's the November sixth one, that's the first one on top, yeah, November sixth.
Okay, staff will look at that and listen to the tape again,
Okay.
okay?
I got one more too, man. I just want to piggyback what you said. We probably asking everybody because that's my son, brother. November the 23rd, a young man's life was taken in the hands of protecting serve. I just want y'all to keep their family in y'all prayers. If you don't mind, just say his name, Marquez Crowder.
Marquez Crowder, Derek Morgan. Let us at that have a moment of silence in memory, just a moment of silence, because our community is hurting. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, that brings us, was it anything else?
No, and that one, I think on the sixth, I think that was it now, that one.
Okay. Item numbers, that was, meeting number 5, okay. Number 6, consideration of an action on reports of committees appointed of the governing body. A, Finance Committee report. You have reviewed the bills and claims. If you wish to acknowledge you have reviewed the bills and claims.
Yeah, we reviewed it, but I'll make a motion that we not accept the, bills and claims report.
Mr. Jones, what's,
I second it.
It's just whether they want to accept them or not accept them, they're just making them, they've just, and they can declare in here that they, based on their report, they do not accept them, and that they vote to not accept them or not accept them.
okay. Have a motion and a second, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay. B, Planning and Zoning Committee report. Ms. Rogers, is she here?
She's not here.
Okay. Number 7, reports of city officials or employees required by law or by action of the governing body. Okay. Have any reports on that? Number 8, action on ordinance and resolutions introduced at previous meeting. Mr. Attorney General.
The ordinances that were introduced at previous meetings, those are all listed out. The only ordinance that we have that was an introduction ordinance from the previous meeting that was requested was the Finance Committee had made a report, and they made a request that there be a financial documents and bank statements powers added to the Finance Committee. That has been typed up, put together. I've discussed with them that it's for introduction tonight, and that between now and then we can review it, look at it, get with the Finance Committee before their next meeting, if they have a special meeting or a regular meeting, before the adoption of it, make any changes we need. But I believe that's been provided now, and we can get together, and it should be ordinance for your records. I'll do it by number. It is the ordinance 244280, and it's in the packet.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mrs. Tappan.
Yes, I know every month I ask this, how many, citations have been written by code enforcement? You're paying, I think, $1,000 or $1,200 a month for an environmental judge, and to my knowledge,
myself and Ms. Tina with the clerk of court for the city, requesting if there is if there's any citations for this month. I have not received, that email. I don't have the citations. I'd be more the prosecution end of it, once they come through from code enforcement. That I know for this court period, this month, I know for last month, sorry, November, because it's at the end of the month. I know that there was no citations for that month, which was the same report that has been given since, June.
My question is why? Our city is horrible, looks horrible. So why? We are paying somebody to do this.
And she inquires each month. I do not have an answer as to why, that outside of what role I have in it, which is when they come up as violations or putting forth the laws for people to write citations on them, I don't have any control past that.
So how many months have went by without it being have to go to environmental court?
So, I'll answer your question directly and it's gonna sound like an odd answer, but it's been since June, if you count June as first. However, I'll answer that question, and that's a caveat, because you're gonna say, well, we've had these environmental ordinances before that. When we initially did the environmental ordinance, the reform, I tried to strategize a plan that would keep it so we could have maximum effect of them. And it was a three-phase plan. Initially, the phase to try and get people to environmental court was due to be the last phase, because we wanted public participation. Once we saw that we had grass lanes, things were less consensual. However, in June, hearing the concerns, I did send an email and said, hey, let's go ahead and move up on the phase. Let's go ahead and start with citations. I think we're ready for environmental court. I think if we're gonna get participation, we need it. It was a lot of hearing, the outpouring that had come through here from council members and from the administration. And so at that point I said, hey, I know that we had a three-phase plan with the new ordinance. Let's just go ahead and execute the summer plan, which was to put liens and to do things that we didn't have to go to court on. Let's just go ahead and start doing it. Let's just put it full effect. Let's just move forward.
I want to make sure we stay in order. Since we skipped over 8, I'll do a motion to back up to 7 so we can really discuss it.
Yeah, I think that's probably where it's at.
Yeah, so we need to back up to 7 because we don't want to be out of order. Because I got a question for you pertaining to this. I want to back up to city employees and supervisors.
So this would be the legal report if Madam Chair doesn't mind if we return to 7, so I can discuss that.
Go ahead.
Okay, good. Okay, well, point of information. Since the ordinance was passed, how many people have appeared in environmental court?
So an environmental court answer is none. That's one facet of it, but there's been no environmental court appearances.
So, another point of information. I'm just going past the ordinance. I'm not going back so far, because if I go back so far, we probably gonna still be with 0. But I'm asking a question for a reason. So, the council lady from District A, she asked a question. We talk about being stewards of the city money. And you did a lot of work on these ordinances to no avail. We went overboard, and everybody keeps speaking about the blight and different things. And how can we continuously go back and tell our constituents that the attorney drew up something, the council passed it, but yet and still we are paying a judge, we're paying a secretary, and we're paying a code enforcement person, but yet and still, end of every month, there are 0 people in environmental court. Somebody just explain it to me. Maybe I'm missing something.
Like I said, I will take care of anything that comes before me.
Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, you see the attorney, right?
Correct.
So they don't have anything.
No, and I do take ownership for the fact that I did build a 3-phase game plan, but there was no citations.
It's not, it's not you,
Yeah.
it's not you.
You did your job.
I'm just asking a question, so you're legal advisor, I'm just saying, does it make sense for us to be paying 3 people and nobody's appearing in court? That is, I mean, you got a judge, it's not her fault, because it, you know, you got things leading up to getting to her, so it's not her fault. What I'm getting at is, all this is being passed, and people talk to us every day, not about just garbage, but blight. What are we doing? What are we doing? That's the question that everybody wants to know. What are we doing? So, is there a reason that no one has appeared in environmental court? Is there a legal reason that no one has appeared in environmental court?
No, but as the legal reasoning would be is that there is, nobody has been sent, nobody has been given a citation to appear there.
So number 7 says.
That's how it gets to environment.
Number 7 say reports of a city official or employees required by law or by action of the governing body. So is there any way we can ask that person who will be able to answer the question as is why having been in their citation grant? Because I think you're in the back if I'm not mistaken.
If you want the legal answer to that, the charter puts it with the mayor that certain officials can give.
Can the mayor okay it?
Can give, she can give a report, she can require them to give a report to the board, and that report is to be written. The mayor can always authorize anybody to come before the board, she's the CEO of the thing, and she's the chairperson of the board, so she controls it, that's the legal aspect.
Yeah, because I think it'll be fair to us, because I know Ms. Angela, maybe several times I've spoken concerning to this matter.
Every month.
So, I mean, can we hear from?
Yes, let me say this before I ask Mr. McDuffie to come. And I rode District A, one of the citizens called me, and you may recall the day that I came over to Council on Aging. I rode all of that whole side, and I made notes on some properties. And then after that, I talked with our code enforcement. And there are procedures, I'm gonna ask, and code enforcement looked up the adjudicated properties. So we have some properties that we know have been adjudicated to the city, which is easier to deal with that than to go on property that has not been, because you get into a legal situation. So Mr. McDuffie, and I don't have my list in my packet, you may be able to talk about those properties that have been adjudicated. And by the way, we are planning with that other grant, the blighted property grant, we've identified 64 pieces of property. And now that,
So,
go
can I ask
ahead.
you a question, Mayor?
Sure.
So the ones that is adjudicated don't have to come before environmental court, we just take care of them.
We can, to the extent the legal,
Excellent.
because we're not,
You're not the owner of it, you can, so you're not the titled owner
Because
of
there's a
it.
process to go through that, you gotta go.
You still have to go through the regular process of a code property. And just to hit the quick, there's basically 3 actions that you can do in code enforcement. You can condemn, which we've all done those hearings here. We know what that is now. You can do liens. So if somebody has something that grass, whatever, there's a process outside of environmental court where you just do it what's non-consensual. You just send them a notice, say, hey, you wait the X time, you send the notice, it's just like the law requires. And then you can do it, then put the lien on the property. Or those people who have those same kind of violations underneath that, you can do environmental court. Generally speaking, your environmental court people, you want people to be present and who participate. That was always why it was the last part of my rollout plan, but we kind of combined that together in June with both the liens and the thing, but to try and further or make more rapidly gain progress on these things.
And I think, Madam Chair,
yes ma'am, go ahead.
and I understand about the dilapidated properties, but I'm talking about all the other properties. If we don't even attempt to write citations, that's an issue.
And there is, the citations can be to environmental court. I don't know about citations where they were cited for being out of compliance with the ordinance, and then those were done by either Public Works or somebody that work was, either the person cleaned up the work was done. They weren't given a date to environmental court, they were never down that path, they were just, hey, your property violation of our environmental ordinances, you have X days to do it or we'll come in and do it. Those citations I would never see. Those don't come.
And I know that, but I'm just saying, somebody has to do it.
But they're either one of those two. You either were cited to do it or cited to come to environmental court. We know that the number on environmental court is 0. So I don't know what the number is on properties cited between June and now for violations that either you fix it or we'll fix it.
That was my next point of information. Since we haven't reached that third phase of going to environmental court.
I think, well, my prerogative was, once I heard the concerns was, hey, let's just do both. I know phase 3, we talked about rolling out in August after the summer months when we were doing these things. In June, I believe in June, I sent out an email and said, hey, let's just go ahead and, I think we're ready for environmental court. It seems that the efforts aren't getting as much ground room as we thought. Let's just go ahead and combine it together.
Okay, another point of information before you speak, Mr. McDuffie, to the attorney, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
It says department heads, you said written, they can give you a written answer.
So yes, the mayor can require the department heads to present to the board. It's under the charter.
I understand that, but I'm saying either written or oral. So if we're not receiving nothing written, and we can't speak to them, but they're here. They're, I guess, I don't know, on the clock or whatever you want to call it. You got all of them here. So if they're on the clock and we pan, reason I'm asking this question because, like Mr. Green alluded to, we had some tragedy happen over the past couple of weeks. And it's something that I wanted to just ask the chief of police about the police department. So if I cannot ever get a chance to speak with him when he comes to the thing like the law says, how do I get him to answer a question? Do I got to request it in writing?
I think it would be a request through the administration.
Why we gotta do that? Why, right, because it says right here that they are required to report.
It's correct. It's underneath section 13, and it says that. Or which section are you reading from?
I'm reading number 6 where it says action, the reporting committee appointed governing body.
So that's
by law.
Correct. So, and the law here is the charter, and the charter provision that speaks to it is in 13. I'm counting the sentences. It's the next probably 4 or 5 sentences from the last, so about halfway through it. It says, when it spells out what the mayor shall communicate in writing to the board of aldermen, which I don't know why when they adopted the charter they had everything in writing, not oral, because I guess it didn't anticipate this. But it says, he may require any officer of the municipality to exhibit his accounts or other papers and to make a report to the board of aldermen in writing on any matter pertaining to his office. And that's just the limited paragraph. It doesn't say orally, it just says in writing. Now, it's always the discretion of the mayor to go say, hey, I would like you to come here and give this thing, but the actual power is for the mayor to have them do it in writing to the board. I don't know why it doesn't have orally, or it doesn't vest a power with the board to say, hey, you can command these people forward, but it is one of those ones that has a specific sentence which says, make them officers give report to the board in writing.
Does he have a report in writing then, this month?
Well, let me speak to that before Mr. McDuffie. I tasked Mr. McDuffie to see what properties were adjudicated, and he did that. So what we're doing is working a plan to do cleanup. So we had to start with looking at what was adjudicated, and we can have that information. And of course, we found, and I'm going to let Mr. McDuffie talk about the districts that he located. And the second part of that is that blighted. We got a small grant, and Mr. Orals and Mr. Orrs, you can come to the microphone as well. Went through and identified 64 pieces of property, of which I asked him to look at all 5 districts and how, as far as we could stretch that money, that every district would get something. So go ahead, Mr. McDuffie, and talk about those pieces of property that you identified, and we can send you a copy of that was adjudicated. Go ahead.
On adjudicated property, what we looked at and what we've come up with is adjudicated property to the city. We also have adjudicated property to the parish in the city, and a lot of people don't understand that. So that's what we've come up with, and that I didn't really actually look at districts to see whose district it was in, is I come up with what adjudicated property is. Then we run into these condemned houses, it has to go to y'all before it could be condemned.
A point of information, Mr. McDuffie. Excluding the dilapidated houses and all that, adjudicated property, I know that's another issue. How many citations have you written in the past 3 months that's not pertaining to those issues? Just
None.
Why?
I don't write tickets.
Why?
But
no, I'm talking about citations.
Citations.
Right, I don't write citations. What I do is I send them a certified letter.
How many have you done?
It'd be hard to say right now, a bunch of them. And if they take care of it, y'all never hear from them.
So part of your role is not writing citations, is what you telling me?
That's correct.
You said,
I think we always could call them citations, they're usually notices to.
that's what.
But that's what.
Yeah.
How many notices have you written?
It's hard to say.
I mean, a ballpark.
I think it was 35 or something like that, the last thing I gave you out.
So after the notices, what happened?
Well, they give them a notice, send them a certified letter, and they take notice of it, or it comes back. And when it comes back, we have to do, wait 10 days and send them another certified
Okay,
letter.
if it don't come back, then what's the process?
They take care of it. And then I go by and check and make sure it's taken care of, or they call me and tell me. But we send, like today, we got a piece of property on, and it's gotta go to, I think, New York or somewhere.
I'm saying, what if they don't take care of it? What is the next step if they don't take care of it? We're trying to get them environmental court, I'm just asking a
Okay,
question.
yeah.
So what is the next step if they don't take care of it? What do you do then?
Well, it'd have to go to environmental court then.
So if nobody's been in environmental court, that means all the steps be taken. That means you just said if it comes back, right? You say the next step be environmental court, but nobody has appealed environmental court. You said that if it's done, then it's done, right? So that means that everybody you can get in touch with have done their property, cleaned their property up.
I don't say that.
Well, if nobody's in environmental court,
Yeah, because this is
that's what you just said, that's how you
What I'm
explain it.
saying is, that's the way the procedure works.
so this is what we asked. Is what we asking once you do the notification, right? You notify them.
Right.
So at that moment, they supposed to take care of their property,
Right.
their said property. So what we asking is, everybody that you gave notice to must take care of that said property in order for them not to be in environmental court.
Not necessary.
So now where we at when they don't take care of it?
Well, it would have to go to environmental court, and then once we do it, we do a work order for the city. I think Jacob
So
done
have
cleaned
you
up some of them.
So have you
Mr. Oil.
So have you done that before? Have you done the next step when they don't take care of it?
Before, yeah.
How many cases we've had in environmental court this year?
Can't say that. I don't know.
Mr. Jones?
This year, we didn't hold environmental court. I don't think we've held environmental court this year. I'm only remiss because I don't want to make on the record. I don't know if we stopped in January and didn't do January. So I know we were doing the work.
11 months for sure.
I'm sure on 11, I'm unsure on January, would be the only one I'm unsure of. And if it was January, there was 2 cases there, they were, I think those were December though, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think those were December.
And I think so too.
But I remember some, council members appeared.
You remember you and I,
Yeah.
you remember, not you, Dylan. You remember you and I spoke, matter of fact, I had you to meet me district, right? And I love the fact that you had spoke with the owner, had them to clean it up. But you spoke on something that was kind of, concerning, and I said that we should see about it, because if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you was like, it would be more to clean the city, it would be more for the city to clean this property than the property worth. And I said, and I can see your concern, and that's something we need to address, because after you said it to me, I think that might be what you're running into. Like, you feel as if, because we all are speaking about our concern in our district, and your interest is to hear us, but also the best interest of the city. And so you feel as if it would be more for the city to take care of that said property than the property worth. And then you have us, that's our city council for that said district, and have to answer to our constituents like, see where you leave us at?
I see both ends of it.
Yeah, I see, right, I do, but then, now I want you to unpack it and see how we feel. Cause now we get the calls daily.
Right.
And you meet me over here.
Right.
Matter of fact, the whole street.
Mr. Green and I met him the other day.
So it had to be something done to address all those factors, because we can't tell our constituents like the city can't clean it up because it's not worth more than it would take to clean that property up. That I don't think is fair to our constituents. Me.
I understand what you're
Okay, Attorney Jones, if you would.
Mr. Duffy, I want to say one thing. I called him the other day. You did respond. Appreciate it. I appreciate you responding to what I called you about. But my concern goes back to environmental court.
Right.
I'm not speaking about adjudicated property. Councilman Green, when he spoke with you about the cost of it. Well, if it doesn't come back, that means it went to a person. If it's not adjudicated to the city, that means it still belongs to that person. So my point is, if the letter did not come back, and it's to the person, why haven't you required those persons to report to environmental court? Because they're in violation of the ordinance.
About the dollar, to be honest with you.
About the dollar. Well, we sure paying a lot of dollars for not to be on
Well,
the court.
you gotta look at it.
That's $12,000 a year for nobody.
Plus salaries, plus other salaries.
I'm confused when you say about the dollar. I mean, what do you mean by that?
Well, you gotta look at that, we gonna put it in environmental court. And it's gotta go, if they're convicted and they still can't do it, then we put liens and stuff like that on there, and it's costing the city money, put the liens and stuff on there.
That didn't cost that much though.
Usually, it's been my thing, because I was up there, so when it comes back, that means they in California somewhere, you can't get in touch with it. Then I can see your point, but if somebody's staying in a place and you got a lien, they're not gonna let you take their property because you tell them to move some furniture, or they have to cut their grass, if they actually living in the residence. That's what I'm getting at. Some of these houses are occupied, but it's a nuisance, and we got laws to prohibit it. What we're saying is, when you go write those people or give them a citation, however word you want to word it, why haven't they appeared in environmental court? Because based on your assessment, what you said earlier is that if it don't come back, everything is taken care of.
It's possible.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I don't.
Well, I understand what I'm saying is if I send you a letter, clean up your property, and you cleaned it up, you're not gonna hear nothing now.
It's true.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
And
Wait, just a minute, will you finish, Mr.?
looking at both sides of the situation is, I understand your side of the situation, I understand the community side of the situation as well. Now, charter says nuisance property we can do away with. Is that right, Attorney? Nuisance, and this is nuisance stuff we're talking about, okay? With that in mind, they have a law in Louisiana where we can even be funded for it. I don't know whether to catch that. We can be funded for it. We can go in and clean up property, tear down property, so we just can't claim the property. Now, we need to visit our policies, what we have here. If we can do that by state law and draft our policy to meet our charter, then we can do some of these things and plus get state funding to do it, city government, okay? Until we get the right policies, the thing in action is there. And that's what we need to do. We need to just, instead of checking, we need to check ourselves as a city government. What can we do to make our city beautiful? If the alternative that we can go in, according to our charter, we cannot, only one requirement they allow you when you do this, you cannot take ownership of the property. I don't care to own that blade that go to the post office, but it needs to be tore down. And we can get funding for that, we need to do it. I don't care to own them dilapidated houses over on White Street, but they need to be tore down for the safety of the welfare of this community. We need to do it. It's out there, but we got to visit our policies and go forward with it. I'm not putting things. This is our responsibility as a city government, and we have things we can do, but we just got to set the guidelines that we stay in. They say only thing they require, you cannot own the property. If I go tear down that building there, I can't take possession. But they're gonna give us grant money and fund it for up to $2 million. Let's get busy, city.
Thank you, Mr. McDuffie. I have just submitted to our engineers a site, and I'm going to do the research on it for blighted property. And blighted property is a problem here, and the process and the procedure can be so tedious. And Mr. Orles, if you'll speak to those 64 pieces of property that we identified, we did in pursuit of money, thanks to Representative Francis Thompson, we did receive a small grant. And that's the one I was speaking of, divided by 5 districts and stretch it as far as it can go until we do hear back once we apply for the blighted property. So, Mr. Orles, we have a plan of action, and we also have another plan of action that we're going to put in motion for the next number of days. We're going to wait till after the holiday to go on a cleanup campaign within the confines of the law, of which we can do. Then you have these issues with asbestos, and you have ownership, and Mr. Attorney Jones to speak to the legal part of it. But go ahead, Mr. Orles.
Yeah, the 64, estimated 64 pieces of property when we first started out working with the small grant, and it was a blighted grant, was to spend money basically to go in and underbrush and cut the underbrush, because we can't do anything with the actual structures because the majority of them have asbestos attached to them, and that opens a whole nother aspect of it. But that's what we had lined out, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward on spending.
Point of information, Mr. Orles. That grant was, you said 64 properties?
Well, that's what we estimated the time it would take to go in and cut. We had estimated we could do maybe 64 pieces of property.
And that's $25,000?
Right.
The grant was $25,000?
Correct.
And 64 properties with $25,000?
Okay. What Mr. Orles is speaking
It's based on using city equipment and paying.
But I'm speaking about the grant. The grant was $25,000.
The grant was $25,000 total.
And we're gonna be able to take care of how
hoping that we could do it about 64 pieces of property.
With 24, with 24?
We estimated the amount of hours it would take, the amount of hours it would take to go in there and clean that up with the equipment that we own. It's all an estimate.
I mean, that's pretty good.
I think we all have a shared concern about the blighted property. And we're a work in progress. That's why we have the cleanup days. And certainly, the one problem, we cleaned up when people trashed it again. We,
You talking about picking up paper, we don't understand
I'm
that.
talking about some properties that were really in bad shape, and the city went in and cleaned up with equipment, and I don't know how long it was before they did it again. So we need to do something that will motivate people to maintain property, because you can spend a lot of city time and money, and it's not helping the problem when it keeps reoccurring. So the legal procedures of it, Mr. Attorney General, in fact, Mr. Orles and I talked about the no dumping. Once we clean up, we go on these next weeks of a cleanup campaign to clean up all of our districts, at least to the extent of liability, and while we wait for word on the grant. So we can exhaust a lot of really resources, but we gotta find a way. Mr. Jones, you can probably guide us through a legal process that will stop people from doing that, because we don't want to have people incentivized to do it because they know we'll come back and clean it up, only for them to go back and do it again.
Mr. Jones, before you start, can I get a point of information?
Go ahead.
Madam Chairperson.
Yes, sir.
25,000, 64 properties. That's been identified, right? The 64, just,
Yeah.
okay, so if those properties been identified, you know that we need to work on those properties, and you got 25,000. Now, we got $2.2 million that need to be allocated for something, right? We haven't decided, the Madam Chairman hasn't got with us to decide how we're gonna spend that money. So, if you already got that identified, and look like, I think if you can do away with 64 blighted properties, and you said you was gonna do it with 2,500, and we can do it 25,000, and we got 2.2 million, so if we put 100,000 towards that, we should be able to really get something done, huh?
We're talking underbrush and cutting, we're not talking demolishing.
Well, you really not
demolishing
talking about doing away with the
structures.
property then.
Let them answer it.
We're talking about strictly underbrushing and cutting the grass and the brush, not the structure.
That's my point, that's what I was trying to say. I didn't want to cut you off.
So in that case, if we gonna do just the cutting and brushing, what are we using the 25,000 for?
That's
Is that another we pay our workers for?
That's what it was designed
So you gonna put-
to use. It was designed, the grant was wrote for the summertime, we were gonna do it after hours during overtime to spend that money to try to cut those adjudicated properties, cut the underbrush and get them back as cleaned up as best we could. We don't have the money the money wasn't there to
So the
demolish the structures, number one, because of the cost of cleaning up with the asbestos that has to meet all the DEQ.
So the 25,000 we utilize for overtime.
Correct. That's what it was initially laid out for, yes.
Okay, I got excited. This is strictly for the yard.
Yes, sir.
This is
This is
I thought you was gonna do away with
Yes,
the
sir, it's
structure.
not, it's
So
not,
this is
it's
strictly
not the
for just
structure, no,
appearance.
sir.
The structure is still gonna be there.
The
Pretty much what
structure's still
pretty
gonna
much what
be
they
there
do right now.
until we can figure
Okay,
out how
we
to.
gotta-
I'm saying pretty much what they can do during the daytime. Anyway.
Correct,
But we gotta wait till get the grant to get it done.
right.
Why can't we use the rescue money?
Okay, we do have some funding, allocated for each district in addition to that. This is just that grant, that 25 Act, what was it, Act?
Don't ask me the question.
397.
It was an Act 392, I think, or 397, I can't remember.
We have that and stretching that as far as we can, so there we do have some money allocated.
Ms.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Orr, I just wanna say, if you guys need practice, I embrace y'all in District D.
Yes.
Madam
I
Chair.
have a really long list.
And I understand about $25,000 and we're waiting on more money. But we have money available now that we can allocate, for city cleanup with our rescue fund. So this is a huge opportunity that we can take and clean up a lot of areas with the money we have. So I don't think we need to miss this opportunity.
And that is factored in, and we will have to have a call meeting and talk more in detail about that. We're looking at one day next week, and there has been budgeted, looking within the constraints of the law, per district, some funding to help with that. But we were talking about this $25,000 first.
We want to talk about big money.
Anything can help.
Yeah, Mayor, I've got one more question for Mr. Hall. And those 64, that's adjudicated property that you.
Correct,
So,
adjudicated property.
Okay, my point is, if it's adjudicated property, it belongs to somebody, but the city got it. So what if we do it and we can apply it to the tax, follow me on this, you apply it to the taxes, which they're probably not gonna get. And for future references, if it's cleaned up, we're not gonna do it for free, because if we sell that property, we should recover our money that was spent on cleaning it up. We're not just gonna clean nothing up for somebody's buddy to come along and get it for free. What I'm saying is the actual cost that the city spends on cleaning the property up, apply to that taxes. So when you sell that property, you get your money back.
Okay. Mr. Jones, you want to speak to the legal aspect of that? And thank you, Mr. Orr.
The only time I can proceed legally that you're gonna get to cost prohibitive areas is if you have things that you wish to destroy that are demolished, which is, under the three actions you have, the condemning court. If you have an absent owner, you have to have a curator appointed, which is an attorney form. That's where you're gonna get into real cost prohibitive. If you wanna talk economically speaking, probably your best hope to recoup money is adjudicated properties, because we're more than likely gonna get it back from the sale of the property. If the property looks nicer, maybe it sells. You're not going to probably have if your liens get so high in bill, people just aren't gonna pay the taxes, it's gonna get adjudicated anyway. So if you wanna talk about properties where you're likely to get your money back faster, it's adjudicated properties, because those properties are primed to be sold already. So if that's an avenue you're looking at for a potential to get your money back that you're going to expend, adjudicated properties probably, what would you call your better ones, the cream of the properties that are dilapidated. Then probably next would be your properties where you have individuals who live here who can participate and things like that. And there is one avenue to look at this, and I've made a note on it, is, currently we talk about these things going through environmental court, is if we can add something to that code to make it where it is actually a violation of our ordinance, and something that maybe we could go ahead and just put through, with our city court.
But I thought we had processes already in place.
We do, but environmental court is trying to get them to reform stuff, and I believe this is a violation of the city ordinance. Anybody would allow something to stay dilapidated like that, you could send it through city court also.
Okay, so this is what, 6 or 7 months later, so why we just discussing it right now? Six
I'll
or
be
7 months
honest,
and no action.
to be
Well, a
honest,
year.
I did not anticipate the position that we're in. I thought when we put our heads together with the reform code thing that we would be in a different position from my standpoint. But I'm starting to look at actions from other standpoints to place it into it. Every police officer we did place in there, and we did think of this on foresight, we did place in there that every police officer is charged with taking care of these. So any police officer who's on the street that sees one of these violations has a duty to report it. And so that gives them the avenue through your ordinance, their laws they act on. In addition to state law, an avenue to cite people. So you could have regular uniformed officers citing people for this stuff. possible avenue to come through. It wasn't a vein that was initially thought of from the get-go, because everybody either has environmental court or they do the method where they bring them in and they say, hey, this is, we see a violation, we give them a notice, and they either reform it or they don't. If they don't reform it, then we can reform it and put a lien on it. But some hybrid in between that might be, instead of going to environmental court, we can start sending them over to regular city court. You know, Mr. Pierre does a good job prosecuting. He's, look at his tickets, he clears them pretty well. And Judge Lester is very well versed and is elected from here. Probably would like to hear from some of these people who don't want to clean their property. The only question I have is I need to look at the liability on an occupant versus an owner. And if an occupant is the person who is the citable source versus the owner, I know underneath the environmental ordinances you can cite the owner or the occupant, but it ultimately goes back to the property. There are property cases. I would need to look and ensure that these things give an avenue to cite just the occupant. Because a lot of times you have an owner who lives absent far away. And so make sure that, and there is some tweaks between civil and criminal. You'll need to have a little bit higher standard of that it was willful violation.
Attorney?
Yes.
Go ahead.
But I think that's something to look at, and that's something I have wrote down to make sure we end that up. And maybe what we end up doing is asking officers to place these through regular city court as an ordinance violation.
That's what I was gonna ask. It's supposed to be like the trash, litter.
Yeah.
You and I spoke about this once before. So, instead of going to environmental court, when a person got a house, they got an apartment, whatever, and it's just trash, trash is considered litter.
Correct.
We're not talking about destruction, we just talk about the trash. So if it's trashy, I asked you back then, instead of Mr. McDuffie writing a ticket, trash is litter, right? And you say you was gonna research it, but will we be able to get our police officers or anybody to go ahead and cite those people that you talked about?
Correct, and that was one thing that we had talked and envisioned on the front end, was placing a duty upon everybody in the ordinance that everybody has a duty to report it. We'd heard concerns about who you report to, and that was one of the things was to place in there is there's a specific section and that every person who is law enforcement, code enforcement, they have a duty to, if they see it, to report it.
Well, I know, because Mr. McDuffie said he can't write citations. Is he deputized? I mean, can he write citations? I'm kind of, I need an answer, if you have one.
I don't have an answer, but if he is a law enforcement officer, he can write citations. But I don't know the answer of if somebody's deputized, which would be more with the Morehouse Parish Sheriff's Office. I know that a lot of our officers have deputy badges.
So what would he be considered from your legal standpoint?
From my legal standpoint, he is the department head for code enforcement. I don't know if he has any credentials in that realm. That's not something that I know of.
That's a good question.
It is a good question, but it is not something that I have.
Because with credentials comes training.
Yeah.
Well, he had training. He been a police officer 30 years. He just retired, so he's able to write.
But I'm not aware.
I'm saying, is it legal? Just exclude him. The person in code enforcement, can they or can they not write citations? Just exclude the person.
Yes.
Well,
It just
matters to put out policy.
yeah.
per policy, can code enforcement write citations?
If he, yes, he could cite somebody for being in violation of city ordinance.
So what's our problem?
They've been sending letters, they've been sending out letters instead of citations. Like he said there, he said, I send them a letter, I don't get no response, but you actually send a citation along with their letter.
Well,
to state the citation is more in detail. Actually, he got to appear.
Correct. A citation would be to appear in city court. The notice is for environmental court, or a notice to reform it, or we'll do it. So yes, that's a potential avenue to go down.
Okay, Attorney Jones, if you will research that, the procedures.
know the last meeting, I asked for dates that each finding, each determination was handed down.
Okay.
I see the plan of action, but what date was each determination written or
Okay.
found?
Well, appreciate your question. It came to us in a letter. It goes back to, Hurricane Laura. Everybody probably remembers all of the debris that was piled up at, the Ditto place. So these were the findings that came back to us on that date. So it was a process of working with them on addressing each one of these areas. And I believe the letter is dated,
August.
Yeah, August 30th
So
or somewhere.
it was a process. It was first the letter, then the Zoom meetings, and then the communication back and forth. And so the conclusion of it, they sent us, after they said, okay, you have provided the information that we need.
Okay, that's
So to give you a specific date, it was so much back and forth communication, but those areas, 7 determinations with 21 findings was what they gave us in the final analysis. And it's kind of like the regular audit that we have that's going on now. It's been going on ever since we completed the other audit. So you locate one thing, you give that to the auditor, and he processes that, then he asks for something else, and you process that, and that's pretty much the way this went. It was a lot of phone conferences and working through the process, so it was difficult to give you that this determination occurred on this date, because they were evaluating information as we sent it to them, and it all dates back to the Hurricane Laura.
Point of information, Madam Chairperson.
I was pushing it to make you couldn't get it.
I got a point of information first.
Okay, Ms. Chapman?
I had, no, one more part of my question, because I see determination number 6 includes a special project coordinator, which I was not aware of that title until this administration. So that's why my question, I wanted dates.
Okay, moving forward, this is the remedy to fix what happened prior to my taking office. And they wanted specifics, who would be responsible. Let's say if we had another disaster of that magnitude, or a flood, or whatever may happen that comes out of the emergency homeland security. They want to know specifically who is reporting to whom. So we had to provide information to answer that.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Green.
Okay, one question, Mr. President. Okay, this was back in 17, 18.
18, 20, Hurricane Laura. In fact, we're still,
Oh, I'm just trying to get some dates.
answering some questions on that.
You, familiar with grant writing, right?
Yes,
You know, wrote some grants for the city of Bastrop.
I do a lot of the narratives and preliminary work, and then that part that requires the expertise,
Okay, well,
such as engineers and that kind of thing.
the reason I was asking the question, because this was like 7 years ago, and I get just a point of information. When I look at this date, so that prior to August, that's a response. That means I'm kind of confused. Well, did the state just come in, or GOSEP just come in and do this, or was it initiated by anybody? The city of Bastrop, did we initiate these findings, or did they just come in after 7 years on their own and just say, hey, this is the problem that we've seen after audit after audit after audit? And all of a sudden, this appeared in 2024, and I'm looking at these dates, and if you look at August the 30th, when I was asking Mr. Orrs a question about, I'm looking through all of it, I was asking him about the equipment and all that, and just when I was asking the question, these dates, I'm saying that we was going through a audit. If you got the response on August the 8th, in August the 30th, that means they gave you a corrective action plan. That means Ms. Tappet is saying, where's the correspondence with the state of GOSEF that actually the fact-finding mission? This is a resolution for you to remedy the problem. We talk about what were the problems. This is
that's what I was gonna
we actually, what were the problems and why was it initiated? Because, I mean, what initiated them to come and say, hey, we got a problem with this, and then you said this was under the previous administration. But the problem with this, if we gotta sign this corrective action plan, that means this was never in place. If we have to do something to put stuff in place because it was not in place, that goes to all administration, before him and after him. If we gotta sign this here, that means there was no mechanism in place. Now they want us to put guardrails in place for us to continue to receive the funds. Am I not right?
Okay, let me see if, I'm clear with what you're saying. First and foremost, this comes from the Office of Homeland Security, FEMA, and all those things when you have a natural disaster. Okay. This was a letter that I did not expect to receive, but because of federal guidelines, we have an absolute obligation to respond to. It's a mandate in order to, when you put yourself or the city in jeopardy of FEMA not paying you back a reimbursement, and we're still working through some things that go back to those dates. And as that information is prepared, then I will talk more about that. But we had a new governor. Now, why they decided that, okay, we're gonna audit this, then the state, in acquiring federal money out of Washington DC, has to make sure that everything is in compliance. So having a new governor, what happened down there that made them do this, we're not the only one, but it is a mandate. It's a mandate, and that is as much information that I can give. I mean, as far as telephone conversations and Zoom meetings and sending this back and forth, I don't know how the volume of work that, the paperwork, because it's a process. It's just like our regular audit, except this is a different audit. They're gathering information right now, and they may sample test, pull me some time sheets from this date, or pull this from that date.
Even when they do pull something there,
Yes, sir.
you have to respond to it. So what we asking is, what did you have to respond to?
Okay, we sent to you that, is that in here?
That's what that's pretty much because it's how it goes.
Do we have that? Did we put
Trust and verify.
And you asked for that letter?
Yeah, because I mean,
No, that was the final analysis of, okay, this is what you need to respond to. After all of those conference calls and Zoom calls.
So was the conference call was behind such findings that the previous, as you stated, that the previous administration may have caused? If so, can we see those?
21 findings.
Well, they were in the packets. You have them? The red, and making it user-friendly, the red is, those are the responses.
And the black was the answers.
The actual
We
letter.
just need to know the
Like
date
the
of
first
each
read.
deficiency, the date.
I thought he was responding.
Okay, where, we sent something out. We sent something out.
The red was what they actually sent, and the black was your response to their question.
Hold on. Cause I don't see the black.
Okay,
Right here on the appendix,
See the red, right?
the letter.
this is what they were saying here, and this was her response.
Okay, we sent a letter, that you asked for the letter.
Like the
Could someone go get
determination,
the letter, please? The covers something.
Like determination one,
This was her answers
to this right here.
the red is what they were saying, and those are her answers.
If you go pull,
I see what you're saying.
Well,
This is
yeah.
determination one,
we
determination.
sent a separate letter, you probably received it, where I had sent an email to, the chief administrator, you wanted to know the determination. And I sent that separate apart, and they actually, this looks just like that. Okay, the first thing that we submitted to them was in summary. That was to give the history of how we gathered the data. Okay, they came back and they wanted each law, like Appendix 11, Part 2, 200, 2 CFR 200, they wanted each alphabet addressed. So that was sent back to them. So it was a working process. Was someone going to get that letter that we sent out?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
and I remember seeing the letter,
Okay.
but even,
I don't see 21 findings on it.
Under each one, the A, B, C, D,
When you count all those together, 7 determinations, and they wanted each one of those. So,
okay, I was, with each deficiency, I'm used to working with deficiencies from the state. Each deficiency has a date that it was discovered, and that's what I want to know. When was each deficiency discovered?
I gave you what we had, what they sent. It was a process that we worked through. They sent the letter to us, and we responded accordingly. Now, how they pulled and looked at different things, and they said, we want this and we want that.
But also, because what we reading here, it kind of seemed like procedures are supposed to be in place, not so much of the findings. And this kind of what it seemed like we've been misleading about, because we've been thinking it been audit findings. This is like more procedures that supposed to be put in place for the administration right there. Like, cause I'm looking at like the clerk will assign once personnel to keep records of equipment and inventory procedures and policies. This seems like something that's supposed to be put in place, like almost like a handbook.
Yes, so the policy manual.
Hold on, before you get into the but so when we hear it, we hear as the previous administration had put on findings. Now we looking for findings. This more procedures. And then if this more procedures than findings, then we can misled.
Correct, so it was findings that there was lack of policy and procedure in place that was required.
So not dealing with the audit, because we thinking, and I'm pretty sure, I'm gonna speak because I'm gonna speak from District D. I'm thinking, especially when we have told this coming from previous administration, this coming from previous administration, not just said the administration before. So this is like things that need to be put in place for the administration to run efficient.
Yes, so to answer your question in short, these things did not exist, and there were requirements that existed in order, when you receive money from the federal government or the state, they want these policies and procedures in place to ensure the money's spent that way. The audit, in the sense of what it was stated, is that the grant money was audited for where it was spent. There was a lack of documentation or ability to readily find it that resulted in them wanting to see your policies and procedures for why this stuff didn't exist. That's where the findings come from. But it's not an audit in the sense of a CPA audit.
Hold on, Mr. Jones. You just said something that, okay, when the findings, you say they go through it, they audit. So if they find the findings, it was a date that they found the findings. Did GoSelf come to Bastrop, or did we do video conference call? Because Ms. Angela's right. It's a date of a finding. if it's not a finding, then you talking about procedures.
Yeah,
and
and
stuff that's not been in place. So the date that the finding occurred, I mean, and what was the finding specifically, not just this
Cause
paragraph?
according,
Go ahead.
because according to this, Mayor, and Attorney Jones, this seemed more procedures that need to be, that haven't been put in place. So, and when I say misled, is because the community have been led to think that this kind of relate on the previous administration findings. And the two don't go together. This procedures and findings are different.
Working through it, and I have to go back,
Cause now because
I have to go back to my notes where I said we have
Mayor, you know why I said
seven.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I thought by answering it in summary form, they wanted each one of those findings as they referred to it.
Okay, so the reason why, because I'm gonna speak for Ms. Angela and I, because we was here at previous administration. So when people see us and they ask us about previous findings, and that's why we ask them for dates and those such findings. This here, what we're talking about now have nothing to do with findings. This has something to do with procedures. So we need to correct that, because that don't fall on Councilman. When you stated you correcting previous administration findings, you know they kind of relate to Ms. Angela and myself, because we was here. So that's why we want to know the dates.
I don't believe that, Ms. Tappan, what date did you assume office?
I assumed office in 2019.
2019. So when did Hurricane Laura happen? And when was the debris up at the Ditto plant?
That was during my term.
Okay. So whenever whatever they were asking for,
Again,
provide this, this.
listen. I understand what you're saying, but this here, what Go said is to put procedure in place for the administration. So when you speak on findings for the previous administration, it looked as if you correcting something that had took place prior to your administration, not procedures.
Okay. This is based on what they asked, and I gave the letter. I mean, it's not something that I created. This is a mandate.
So you consider these findings? That's what you're telling me. You consider what you're saying?
I'll split the baby in half and say it's both. Because when I sent this, they said we want each one of these items.
So if it's findings, because I get that you have to put things in place for procedures. If it's findings, can we have those dates? That's what Ms. Angela was asking.
Okay, the letter came in August.
No, not the date the letter came, the date.
When they asked for certain information, time sheets, all of it was within the confines of that hurricane that occurred, Hurricane Laura. It goes to that particular, that's where it all emerges from.
So which one are we talking about? We talking about this GOSEP, or are we talking about the audit?
This is the GOSEP audit.
Okay, so
that we are responding to. And we got it to a point of accepting, and then we wanted, I put it on the agenda.
but so Mayor, I'm saying,
Okay,
what you
it's a mandate.
Okay, Attorney Jones, just for lack of clarity, please. So for me, for myself, what I'm reading now, are these findings, or these procedures that need to be put in place?
So,
Which I get, because
which one are you
findings,
showing?
anyone will pick one.
Those the policies that you're, for the manual that you're voting on, those policies, those are policies that were crafted in response to the findings, generally the findings being that we lack those policies.
Policy, right, yeah, not so much of.
Okay, Mr. Jones, I think this is going to probably play. So, a finding, right?
Yes.
So these are policies. So a finding, and you put policy in, okay, I guess what they're saying was that misappropriation of funds, what stuff's bought that wasn't supposed to be bought. And then, so that's where you put mechanisms in place to stop that from happening. So did that occur? That's what.
No, and I think I can answer that more specifically. The thing that occurred was that in the process of them auditing that grant where the money was spent, the production of answers to their questions was not in form and format, like, they didn't give them a form that said, here's the property we bought. They were given receipts, things like that, and they said, hey, you need to have better control devices, and so we're going to have findings that you didn't have proper procedures in place, but based on the documentation you submitted, you need to have these procedures in place. There was no finding that anything was done, it was just that you lacked the.
That's all I was getting at, because that's kind of like, that's kind of like what was put out there, yeah.
There's no findings.
Not saying you did
that
intentionally, I'm just saying.
Not that I'm aware of, that anything was misspent or misdone, what it was.
Or missing or something like
Or
that.
anything. What happened is the production of documents to substantiate where things were spent, instead of them giving a handing on a receipt, they're like, hey, we want a document that shows that this is how it was spent, this is the process that you got there, here's the log for that property is, instead of saying, oh, we bought a computer, let me go find it. They want to say, where's it at? Where's the serial number? Where's all that? Instead of producing receipts boxes, things like that, they want to control inventory things and policies regarding who would make those and who would do them. So, but there was, not to my knowledge, there was anything misspent or misdone.
If I'm understanding you right, in this document here, they requested that we get in compliance, or we did not have this in place.
Correct.
As I'm saying, right, with other words, we didn't have, like they're talking about, all the way from purchasing, how our purchase department should be set up, our inventory, detailed inventory. These are the things they say that we should have some type of in play already, city government, like I think the mayor said, audit, the things that operate. And we didn't have them in play, and they're asking that we do those things at the time, all for them to continue to grant under Homeland Security, for us to qualify under Homeland Security. Am I saying you right?
The shortest answer I've ever given you, yes.
Okay.
The shortest dialogue you and I've ever had.
That's basically what they're saying. We did not have this, but they asked us to do this.
That's right. These are responses to mandate. This is something that the state.
Me and you can both talk long, that's the shortest one we've ever had.
And it's good, but I'm so I requested more information after the first meeting we got the first detail I never received, so I could have a better understanding, but I was listening tonight and reading it. They asked us to get it, and it should, we should be like this all year round. They got some good stuff in here for us, purchasing, inventory, stuff that we, once we meet this requirement, the simple question, someone come up to you and say, what's the ratio of your city? You can look at your form and you can answer that question. 6 months, a year ago, we couldn't answer that question. But if we do this according to what they're requesting, I think we should be in good shape in the future to do so.
Well, and it goes back more than 6 months.
Well, I mean, I don't know, I
This
didn't
goes
use
back.
that one there. I didn't use it, no, I wouldn't, I'm just saying.
Madam Chairperson, I need one information. So we talked about, they came in and they audited this. So, and they gave us a mandate to put these mechanisms in place in order to keep receiving funding. So my question is, I guess I just, out the blue, randomly want to know, so if they ask for a documentation, and you couldn't supply it, that would trigger something else, right? Because if you would have supplied, but not you, I'm just saying, the documents would have been supplied, this never would have transpired. So something triggered this. What I'm saying is, if anybody would have asked you for everything, they would say, okay, produce this document, you can produce it, okay, produce it. But when you can't produce it, then it's a further finding. They start looking in depth and say, hey, you guys need to do this, you guys need to do that. Because if you don't do this, then you're not doing it properly, and then they start just investigating it further, and they find out, hey, y'all never had these mechanisms in place. So it's not just one administration. What I'm saying is something, I mean, you know how audit goes, something triggered them to go further. And I guess that's what Ms. Angela was asking for the dates. What caused them to wanna just take a deep dive into the, grant money.
When funding comes, and it comes out of Washington DC, the state is held accountable. And then the sub-recipient of it will be like us, and we get this money, and there has to be a level of accountability for this money. So this is that letter that was sent to you, and I had attached to it also, where I called the chief administrator, since it was tabled, where does that put us? As it stands now, we're out of compliance until, these are mandates, this is just a symbolic mandate that you are accepting, you are acknowledging that this is what will be put in place. Now, if something happened, if we have a storm and something happened, because this is the last piece that they're waiting on.
Okay, another one of the information, since you said that, and we kind of know how it's supposed to go. So, have we received any more funding besides that grant back in 2019? Because if so, if we received money past 2019, that means whoever submitted that grant, we was not in compliance then. I mean, you follow me on that? So if this was back then, and we continuously apply for grants, and they kept giving us grants, so we was never in compliance, but we kept receiving grant money. And so, and another thing, follow me on this now, when it comes to corrective action plan, we the legislative body. So, I see the problem is this is the last thing. So when you get back with them, they figure that we all on one accord. Because when you do a corrective action plan, usually you go back and you write it down and you let the council look at it, and we say, okay, this is this good thing, we approve it, disapprove it until we work on a remedy, until we all come together on one accord. And then you turn it back into them. That's why I see the problem was at the last meeting. They was under the impression that we was all on one accord, and when we got here and we failed to pass it, they like, what is wrong with them people up in Bastrop? They brought this to the council where they supposed to be on one accord. But the reality is we never seen this. You brought it to us and say, hey, this is what I came up with, and y'all signed it.
Well, I didn't come up with the.
No. I'm saying you coming up, you did the corrective action plan. Yes, ma'am.
It's just, okay, well, we may be saying the same thing.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just like the audit, which is a difference. This is dealing with federal money that comes to us through state. The auditor that's working on, what he's working on is not gonna give you pieces of it. And he's not gonna give you something that's incomplete, because you don't have anything that's really concise. And once he submits the audit, and I'm using this as an analogy, once he submits his report and the chief administrator responds to the finding, it's sent to the state accepts it, and then it's released to the public. It kind of follows that same scenario, that these were the 7 determinations, these were the 21 findings, this is what, looking in compliance with the law, you answer that, you send it to them, and when they say, okay. Because my question to them was, I need to take this before the city council.
Mayor,
Okay.
I'm a Madam Chairperson.
Yes, sir.
I understand that part of it.
Okay.
You bypass the part. What I'm saying is before you even send it to them, your corrective action plan, like you got these other jobs in here that you created, but you never ever got with the council and make sure it was okay. That's what I'm saying. When you did the corrective action plan, and we would have been all in together, because we want money also. We're not trying to not have any money, but what I'm saying is when you do a corrective action plan, before you send it back to the state for approval, when you create jobs, you should have just anybody, any mayor, for future references, you should just get with the council and say, because you don't want to be in the same predicament, because like these other jobs that's created, when you look at this, people say, well, we don't,
What other jobs?
it's like, we Which one you said was?
We got purchasing agent and purchasing
Where
director.
you want me to start? It's all kind of new jobs, like, we
Okay,
don't even know who the person that's gonna fill those positions. What I'm saying is that if we work together and we would have seen this prior to us coming here to sign it, then we would have requested to make some changes. We've been all on the same accord.
These,
Can we get an extension on this for the council, get a chance to look at it, so we get on the same course? I agree with Mr. Green 100%.
okay,
If we ain't had it, if you had it since August, and we just got it last month.
other audit has been worked on ever since
I'm talking
July
about
1, so
I'm talking about-
you're not gonna get it until they release it from the state.
I'm talking about this, man, I'm saying, Mr. Green is absolutely right, because we need to sit down and go with this, cause it's to talk about job positions, they talk about, different things that this council haven't even decided this is the way we wanna go.
These are mandates.
The request may be mandated, but these some of
Okay, if you
these
want
jobs,
to- if you
for
want
instance,
to-
okay, I was talking, and I'm trying to get mine out of it. What I'm saying, these jobs and different descriptions in here have not been discussed. From the inventory ticket, we need to sit down and say, hey, look, that's a good inventory ticket. I think that's a good way to do it. We haven't been doing these things like that. We do not know what we have in inventory. And some of it, a lot of it I do, we don't get me wrong. But like I said, to the respect of this council, Mr. Green, Mr. Locke is not here, and myself, to sit down on one accord and say, this is good, we all want to sign off on this. We had enough time to study this.
Okay,
I mean,
the best way I can answer this,
sure.
1, 2, 3, 4. Those 4 pages. The rest of this was documents that had to be located within what was already in existence. These pages, well, then there's a line of demarcation between
Don't
administration
go in the line
and.
talk because you're getting out of it. But I'm just saying, if we not been trying, you're not being transparent to us. Again, I'll say this again, I think I said it several times before. This council, this makeup of this council, is all intelligent enough to comprehend what's going on if we correspond with one another. With you, the lawyer, the attorney, the clerk, and everybody. But now ask us to sign off on this without getting a clear understanding of all of, having some input on it, I think that's disrespect to the council. I'm gonna leave it there.
I have a question, David, before we go. Cause I thought it was previous administration, right? Because now when I see the mayor's done city engineer and special project coordinator, we never had a special project coordinator prior. So I guess going forward, the special project coordinator will be doing what we gonna sign.
That's the role that they have placed in there. So yes, whatever you sign, whatever the administration has placed in there. So to answer your question short, not to beat around the bush, I think we're saying the same thing, just, yes, if you vote this in, that's the person who'll be doing it. So at some point, if it's not Jake or it's a department head, they would have to also have the title of special projects.
So what we need to create, actually vote on those positions?
Yeah.
We've never voted on either position.
Correct. In order to facilitate the policies, you would need to have all of the roles in the policies going forward.
And they're not here. That's what I said, they're not here. It's spelled out here, but we don't know exactly who's playing what role. It doesn't, you saying, who's playing what role?
But that's why I was asking.
That's all we're asking, we're not trying to point.
Yeah, the policies just have the titles. They would, the actors would change as the things, but
Well, we know Mr. Orr is our project coordinator.
we don't know who it's gonna be.
We know that you're an attorney, we know that this, but some of these, who's the inventory person they making about, there's a lot of other job descriptions in here that there's not, we can put a name to. I mean, it sounds good, don't get me wrong, but we can sit down and put a name to it, fill those positions. I think the state audit report said that we was overworking some people holding too many positions. I see a record coordinator here, that's something new. That ain't 6 months old. Record coordinator ain't 6 months old. Who gonna be the teacher record coordinator, talk about the entire
Record coordinator in this, and moving forward, to satisfy the mandate. This is just the who, and it was quite specific. Who will be doing what?
Well, one thing I told you, since you brought it up, you said the former clerk will assist the present clerk. That gotta be decided by this board. The former clerk to resign or retired or still working or something that we don't know.
Okay.
We don't know. And I'm not getting on the former clerk, either. I'm just telling you where it is.
Okay, let me say this. In being open and honest, I was not here in 2018 or 2019. Someone had to find what they were asking for. So in all honesty and in integrity, that's the only time.
We're not putting a finger in the middle. We're just saying we need to be
And
more.
I'm not trying to
We're
point
not
a
pointing a
finger.
finger at you
In
at all.
all
But we
honesty,
need to be more harsh,
in all honesty, this is the person that had to help locate what was in 2018, 2019, whenever that occurrence happened. Okay, so that is the only time that is mentioned. Going forward, these are just responses to mandates. Go ahead, Mr. Gray. Okay.
Okay. I make a motion to be tabled to the full council in session, and maybe we'll get a little more time to discuss it in more detail.
Okay. Attorney Jones, I'm going to suggest that you speak to
If I can get it done.
the risk that poses. Because I did, after what happened, and it was tabled, and it was your will to take, I did ask, as you see in this email, I don't have a choice in this, except to be in compliance.
And that's why I always say that we, as the council, we always kind of always put our backs against the wall, because now we just stated that once we agree on this, that means that we have to create a special coordinator, personal director.
Well, these were, I don't know how
System
clear this
building.
is. Some of
I
those
get-
first,
I get what you're saying, but
this came, my responses stop here. These are the policies that you had in existence that had to be located and put together to satisfy. And just these pages here where, if you look, they are parallel to each one of them.
I now see what you're saying.
Okay.
This was put forth at first.
Yeah, this was what you have starting here,
Right, okay.
inventory procedure. That's coming out of other parts of the policy. Now, to satisfy this, when you look at this letter that came from the governor's office,
I got reasons. Because like, what we had in place, what we had prior, we supposed to have a personal agent. And
they
a personal
wanted to know
director.
the what, who is going to
I had
be
a
responsible.
motion on the floor.
Now, to say that, let's say if that position changes to something else, it just happens to be special project coordinator. But, and it's not personalized to a person, which is what you don't typically do in a grant, you don't personalize it. But it's a position. This is how we're going to track this. And after all of these requirements are met, then we will be able to sign off on it. That everything was in place. Did everybody get a copy of this? Did you? I really, no, I'm making sure you had both.
Can I get a motion? I think I got a motion to table this to next week. Can I get a second?
I said to ask for another extension and we're out of compliance. Basically, what she said, we're out of compliance.
This is our first time being out of compliance. We just need to get it done right. Let's do it right.
They have accepted it.
Oh, you already submitted this to them?
Okay.
Okay, you just said that.
Okay.
They have, but we have. That's the problem.
Okay.
They,
We right now, we have some money hanging in the balance from Hurricane Laura, and we need to, this is something that needs to
How much
be,
money we have hanging in those matters?
possibility $600 and some thousand dollars on
Now you tell us.
Well, we didn't know.
We should know.
I
we
just
know.
found out.
Oh, okay. Well, we gonna tell you, we make sure we get that money and we do it right.
Okay,
I made a motion, I can't tell you, I just
because
made a
it
motion.
has to work through, levels.
Okay, I just made a motion, I have a motion on the floor to table this, and I think I've heard Ms. Tappan
Brad,
second.
what is it here that, I see these different positions, right? What, Mayor, we making it, I see these positions, right? So, cause we don't want, it's a bad situation, because now you just told us $600,000. Well, I mean,
This stems from
Okay.
that.
But she also said
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
already, she also said it's already been accepted. It's already been accepted. I don't know what we sign off.
But we can do it, I'm trying to come up with a solution to this, because these job titles are the problem, right?
The attorney can give us.
Job titles and several other things, that's what we bring, I have some.
Maybe I can provide some clarity.
Yeah.
Okay, so the bulk majority of those policies and procedures were crafted by GOSHA. The only thing that we really did was the titles were put in there. The bulk of those policies are what are called Form GOSHA policies. They provided those back to us.
So do we need to create the policy, the positions is what I'm asking.
Correct. So the really only thing that's different is that's what maybe by the statement that they've already accepted them or whatever, or they've already approved them. They were crafted hand in hand with GOSHA. GOSHA basically gave form policies.
You
plug in the titles. You plug in the titles. It's like responding to any other findings you have with any agency. They say, hey, we have this form policy we'd like to have in place. Just same thing with Medicare guidelines. To give something. That was it. These titles are what I'm hearing from y'all is the debate on it.
One of them.
Correct. But the actual form of the policies, the form of the policies are their model policies. We just supplied the titles.
So we can amend it?
Well, you can always amend handbook at any time. Handbook policies, that's the purview of here.
Okay.
But that's you can always amend them. It's just for the time that you adopt them, they're there until it's amended.
Okay.
So,
That's what I was trying to clarify about being submitted already. They weren't submitted, they were.
okay, so then you have to list.
Would you read what that letter says on that, where I put the check mark?
Correct. Failure could lead, so basically it says failure to comply with requests for information listed below could lead to referrals to GOSHA's management to initiate non-compliance actions. This was on the August 30th letter. We've worked hand in hand with them back and forth. That's their blanket statement. They can at some point disqualify you. They'd have to take procedure.
So you work hand in hand with it in August?
No, they worked via email back
Who
and
is that?
forth. GOSEP.
GOSEP and who?
GOSEP and the administration, and I was included in the email.
So that's in August. So again, we asked our question, why we hearing about it in November?
You know, I have no response for why it was brought to the council, but I don't make
when I say
agendas.
previous, it's not to be argumentative. When I
Yeah.
say, it's not fair that we always receive some at the last minute, and here we are again, as you just stated, and I know his concern is, I don't wanna lose on $600,000, even me, it's like $600,000, we need that. But it's always like the last minute, we gotta make those last minute decisions, and you just stated, y'all was going back and forth, August 30th,
Well,
that was 4 months ago.
I can tell you, and there wasn't a lot from the legal side on this, other
It was enough to be transparent.
than reviewing emails. That said, I also don't, I'm not the chairman, I don't make the
No,
decisions.
I'm not saying you did, so don't, you know how we talk, but it's enough to be transparent to let us know, so that way we can have our input and concern, instead of us doing in this meeting, it make it seem like we arguing, but we hear about it right here.
And that's what I was trying to add clarity about.
Well, not right here, man, but because we get our pages before the meeting.
the submission part of it, that's already been submitted, it's because these policies were crafted based off their blanket policies. The only things that were changed were the titles. And that's what is gonna go back.
Mr. Jones, I got another point of information. Councilman Green gave you a very important date. You said y'all was kind of back and forth, way back in, when was it, August? August, okay. You coming up with these, not you, but the administration coming up with these corrective action plans. If you got all this time, wouldn't you think that somebody would say, hey, this is what I came up with, this is what I'm gonna submit, and look at it and say, okay, well, Mayor, it's great, we need this stuff, so we probably need to change it. You probably need to get with the council and see if they're gonna go along with this or that. This has been so long ago, and versus coming up here, I think we'll be in a better place if that would have happened, because it's like, go back to what I was saying. When you do a corrective action plan, when you submit it back to them, they thinking everybody's on one accord, but actually, the city council had never seen anything, because we the one who have to approve it. So why wouldn't you allow us to see it? Because it's gonna take 3 votes to get it done. I'm just saying in
It's
general.
a mandate. It is a mandate. I didn't create it. I didn't create the situation.
Mayor, pardon me, I'm not talking about the mandate, man. I want to get everything done. I'm just asking a question, because you see where we at right now. We need to get it done. It has to be done, but there's questions. What I'm saying is, it's been since August. If we would have brought this to us before now, I'm sure we could have solved a lot of these problems. We'll be way ahead of the game.
Mr. Jones, please, if you will, when the chief administrative officer gets something to respond to, don't call God's name in vain.
I'm talking about.
That sometimes you have to just respond and to find 5 people to say, this law says this. I got it to a point of acceptance. Now, when I got it, and it originated out of 2018, Hurricane Laura, and I knew nothing. So I went into what I feel is the responsibility of the administration on daily operation to answer these questions. Now, when we get to August 31st is the deadline date for our regular audit. And you're not going to see that until that is sent to the state and then approved by the state to be released. So what is the problem? Because the mandates, the determinations were already defined. And I responded to them, and it took this time frame to do that. Now, what are the consequences to it? Attorney Jones just read it. So,
I just like, my motion's still on the floor. I like to have a table, and we'll come back Christmas Day. I see you Christmas Day, okay? But I'm just saying, we need to know, like you just made a statement here, just in there, you said that you're not gonna see the audit until we send it off. Well, see, that's another thing. We should be able to see it. We the county, we gotta sign off on it. Anything that we gotta sign off on, we should be able to see prior to signing off on it. See, and you knew that last year.
Attorney Jones, you want to speak to that? I don't think
I mean,
the council doesn't sign off on the audit. They sign off on receiving it.
Well, we sign off on it, we need to see.
Responds to the findings.
So we need to
So
sign
in
off
all
on
of
it.
that, to give this council, it would have been disrespectful and incomplete policy of something that you can't come in the office and start locating, because that takes you into day-to-day operation.
Mayor, with all due respect, I understand what everybody's saying, but we've misconstrued the whole situation. I'm not talking about, nobody's talking about going into the office. We're talking about, we have to sign off on, if we didn't have to sign off on this right here, they wouldn't bring it to the council. What I'm saying is, this corrective action plan that we are required to sign, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your findings, not your findings, but your response to the findings. That's what I'm saying. When you send it back to them, and now you can send your correspondence back to them, and they say, okay, we accept it. But only way it's gonna be accepted back to them is through our signatures. Do you follow what I'm saying?
It's an acknowledgement that this council is willing to be in compliance with these mandates that were set. And if you will look at them, and you've had this since November, you will see almost verbatim is their same language, which is the way federal grants are typically done. It's verbatim, basically. This is what will be done.
We should have got it in August too then.
Well, then, you,
I mean, it's so verbatim.
Yeah, I understand. I get it. I'm just talking about different positions. It's gotta be, when you create a position, you see it on here, it's gotta come before the council. I think that's what I'm saying. When you create, you just can't give a person a job without first getting authorized by the council. I think that's where I'm going at.
Attorney Jones.
So, I'll go 2 avenues. Remind me to catch yours. 2 avenues. I think everybody's consensusly somewheres in, Mr. Locke's not here, he'd probably hit me for doing this, but, I think what I'm hearing is this. So August 30th, we had notice of these violations. These policies, they were crafted with basically GoSet provided them, they provided the fill-in information, that came out November before the meeting. Somewhere between August 30th and November meeting, which literally maybe a couple days before the meeting, they said, yes, go with these policies, we're good now. Somewhere between there, the council would have liked dialogue that, hey, we're looking at these issues, here's what's going on, here's what's coming down the pipeline, instead of a November meeting of, hey, 4 days ago, we told them we were gonna turn these in, we need to turn them in ASAP. We really had till August the 30th, they've given us we've kind of informally got an extension, and now we formally have an extension to keep them updated continually. That's the summation I'm hearing. As to that, as to Mr. James Green's, I don't mean to point, that's rude, I'm sorry. As Mr. James Green's contentions about creating job titles, in the charter, it speaks to provisions about salary, job titles. I believe it's 17, it may be 18, somewhere's in there in the charter. It talks about the mayor and the council together. My opinion legally has always been is that the council, there's division of government everywhere. It doesn't mean y'all sit here and take applications together and everybody hires the secretaries, everybody, but the council itself, in enacting those provisions, would offer the broad strokes of the employment process, who's to be hired, statuses, titles, and that is something that I would say that would probably get us past a lot of issues, is if we actually spelled out, like they have at other municipalities, they have spelled out procedures that are adopted by the board that says, hey, this is the hiring process, this is the firing process, these are the pay scales for everybody, this is where it goes, this is these are the people that we employ, the titles that we have, and then the mayor fills those in with whoever they select through the hiring and firing process. You set the procedural mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
She carries out the day-to-day office stuff based on policy, based on procedures set by the board. That's kind of how an employment, pay, anything like that, it really governs. There's a lot of places where there's that duality. The board would set the broad procedures, the mayor as the CEO, and over that division would carry out the process of employing people through those procedures and utilizing the procedures set in place by the board. So yes, titles, there's always been argument back and forth about titles. There's nothing in here that says that that these titles exist. We've had assistant clerk, things like that, things that aren't in the charter. There is some avenue to where ideally, the most ideal would be is that this council would undertake procedure to establish what job titles there are, related pay scales to those job titles, and then fill in all the other policy and procedure things like that exist, and the mayor would carry it out without the need of the council our firing process, I think we need to add something to it. Let's add something to this process. Not the actual decision of hiring or firing, but the process of how that occurs in the city is something that the board can ensure, same as pay raises or pay scales or anything like that. But currently, we don't have anything, so it leads to a lot of disagreement, because it's really, we come in here, we get a lot of, this is advice through discussion, but there's no actual written ordinance or written policy that's been adopted by this board to either do hiring, firing. These are the job titles we have, these are the pay scales associated, there's none of that related with it.
But we do have, I noticed in this, we do have treasurers for one of the jobs. I don't see the treasurer, I don't see the treasurer in this project at all. I see a few names called former clerks and stuff that they don't even mention the treasurer. We do have a treasurer. We had one person holding the treasurer and everything, but we finally got that straight. We do have a treasurer, and her name not, the treasurer position not mentioned in it at all.
Yeah.
And she have a fidelity duty, you know, definitely when it comes to transacting funds and stuff on behalf of the city, and not listed in here. It's like we went around some people. That's all we want to do, and maybe it was overlooked. There's some might be oversight. That's why you put your brains together and we sit down and discuss these things. I know you have a short time, I know you have no coming at you too, but take the time to put these things together, or maybe somebody overmissed some, you know, not intentionally, like maybe Miss Taffy called or Mr. Green called, you know, hey, this what, are you aware you're even the treasurer?
Okay, when the letter asks who, what, then you have the element of segregation of duties. So there are a lot of parts in here that goes to the heart of administration. Now, if you would have preferred that I gave you this wrong letter and said, work on it and take my hands off of it, and you answer it,
You give me that, you're signing me that?
I'm not signing
I
it.
thought you were signing me that, I would take it.
There is a line of demarcation of whose job is what.
Okay, well, I'm just, we're not, questioning your job, I just think that, you got some loopholes in here that bring some concern to the council, that's all. I mean, some things, you know, some questions that, at this stage of the game, we're back against the wall, and we're trying to get some clear answers, some clarity, and, move forward, you know.
I think that's.
Again, my motion is on the floor.
Every day in your life, you make decisions when your back is against the wall.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you've invited into your life, but you have to make decisions, you have to
I try to make less than possible. But what I'm saying, I like to make a motion that this be tabled, for a week of, my motion. I think I had a second on it, I think I was on the floor. I don't want it to die, I like to have a second and at least take a vote on it. I mean, you know, we're getting away from, policies and procedures again.
I asked for an extension. It was granted. Where it goes from there, it's out of my hands.
I'll put your hand through it, hold on. You think the possibility they may give us another extension? The possibility? No?
I'm unable to answer that.
Well, I'm just asking my question, do you think we are gonna shoot?
I've asked for one, once it was completed and got into a point that was user-friendly for presentation to you as a council. And then I called her and I asked her because it was tabled. And her words to me was make sure it's clearly documented. So you're asking me to ask for.
Yeah, we're asking you that for, that's a document, that's what we prefer to do. We wanna do it right. I mean, you know, I'm not, we wanna have some clarity, everybody comfortable with, I mean, you know, at least 3 of us is comfortable with it, that's it, because you don't need everybody.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I think to just ease the mind of this council, we need to, set some clear boundaries for the positions that's included in your responses. The positions never came before us, so how long of a period of time will the records coordinator work?
Okay, that part, the record coordinator,
already turned this in. That person that you had filling that job, so if it's already turned in, so that job should be non-existent anymore, since you already completed this phase of it.
What's going on now is the residual. I think this came up before. The other audit, which is overlapping from years, there's still lots of documentation that has to be pulled. And the new clerk is unable, she's pulling double duty. So actually, getting through this audit that's coming up December the 31st, which is another thing that's gonna be on my plate to answer.
Okay, Mayor, I guess, Madam Chairperson, I guess, see, you just answered my question. I see what Councilman Bradford was saying now. See, this is pertaining to GoSell.
Yes, sir.
And when you put that in here that she was doing all the work for GoSell. And now, you can say, okay, we finished with this, but you're gonna retain her still. See, when you add it in here, I just wanna finish up. I just want to get some clarity. Because when you got in here as GoSell, that's when I'm all for it, but when Mr. Bradford, he piqued my curiosity, because now you can say it, that not only this here, she still is going to be searching records for something else. What I'm saying is, if she was here designed strictly for this GoSell, and you've already submitted it, why would she still be on the payroll?
Okay. She's not on the payroll.
Well, why would she still be assistant? Okay.
Every day.
I just want to I just ask questions. I'm just saying. If you need her, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, when you have this on here, it's a job creation, but it was created for this. Or is it going to be continuous? I guess that's the best way I can put it.
We have this, once this has the blessings of the council, we got this in place. We still have another concurrent audit going on. The documents need to be pulled that will help alleviate the burden on the new clerk. And the people that are putting it together absolutely and unequivocally said their hands were gonna be tied if we didn't have somebody that could readily pull and we're addressing everyday operation all at the same time.
Well, I guess my question is, my concern is that she was not, right now, she's not being paid. But when you sign off on this, you're creating a job specifically for that person that's continuously helping. Then she'll be able to get paid because you actually signed.
There's nothing in there that says that.
And then we take a lot of business, we got a person doing work, doing government, carrying on government duty, the city government duty, and that's a liability. You got an employee or what?
What Councilman James Green was referencing is the section that talked about, is not the policy section, it's the section in the response that talks about when it came August 30th, they were still trying to find documents to keep from having to, so they said, who are you going to task with finding this? They tasked the former clerk to find them because she was the one who could find them. That's all that's there for. In the policies going forward, that's not included.
So
that was just a response of, hey, you have these deficiencies. What are you going to do to correct these deficiencies? We're tasking this person to find it, that person to find it.
But that means her job is over.
Correct. Well, yes.
Well, do she have a job or not? Because now, when she's resigning from clerk, when the former clerk resigned, then they appoint her a record coordinator on the payroll that was showing making $58,000 a year.
As I understand,
I mean, I don't know. I'm just going by the record.
I don't know anything about pay. I'm the legal department, but all I'm saying is that whenever I inquired as to
what a new position,
that statement about this person was going to do it, I was told that it was on a volunteer basis just to find that paperwork responsive to those grants during that time.
Record coordinator position in August was after the clerk resigned. They created a record coordinator position, which I pulled the payroll and said record coordinator. I won't have to call it name, won't call it employee name. You know, we talk about $58,000 a year. And I haven't seen anything yet. updated, she been terminated or quit or whatever, volunteer, anything to that nature.
The best I know.
I mean, I know you can.
The best I know legally of that is in order to receive your retirement, you have to disconnect from the city, and you can't reconnect for a period of 2 years, and you can't reconnect for a full-time employment. So if she's receiving retirement, then that individual would, if that individual's receiving retirement, then they cannot be paid by the city for a period of 2 years.
And that volunteer is not covered by the bonding of our employee for the city government. It's a violation. All other employees here is bonded, that they messing with records, that's required. That's called, now it's called from a record coordinator to a volunteer. We need some clarity on that since we're discussing these particular issues that we're getting ready to submit to the federal government agency, as well as our audit report. I know it's close to Christmas, we just need to take time. We need to take time and get some clarity. You're asking this council to sign on, get on board, and we doing things, we violated labor law. We got a person we got a person handling public, our city government business as a volunteer. And what kind of liable, who liable if she make an error or he make an error or something cause something, cause this, who's responsible, who gonna take that? She's not, the insurance company not gonna pay, she's not governor, she's not an employee.
It's covered underneath.
She's not employed, she's not bonded.
Volunteer workers are covered underneath our liability policy, our umbrella liability.
It covered under liability volunteer? Okay.
Yes, it's the same as if we had somebody doing, trash pickup or.
Well, we should get, maybe we can find somebody to volunteer come in and help the staff, the young staff with what they need to be done here. I mean, cause it ain't that hard. If you got a file and if a file is kept accurate, you put in a particular, let's say ditto, hurricane and ditto, I'm sure today technology will pull that up. I can do that and I don't think I'm afraid of nobody. It's not that complicated what I'm trying to say.
There was a motion on the floor.
I made a motion that we table this till Monday next week.
I believe you had a motion in a second.
Yeah, I'm opening in a second, I'm sorry.
That's what discussion, so now it's the vote. So, we're at vote posture.
Just something else for clarity before we vote. Just by next week, we just need to know, about the approval of these positions. Do we need to? And do we need to put a time frame on each position since it's special contract type deals? We need to figure all this out by next week.
What's the date?
And I think that's really to look at on the changes is what are the titles? And I'll be honest with you, the titles really that you want to look for is longevity of the titles. So, like, I hear a lot of concerns about special projects coordinators. That title typically doesn't exist. Does that need to have an and or somebody else? So this document outlets the board. You're not coming up here all the time with it. And we don't get grant money whenever there's not Mr. Wells. Not saying he's not going to be here. He's not done anything. Just if he's not here, then there is some title that exists in the city already. That's the only title I could see that probably you need to have something where if there's not special projects, otherwise you're going to be back in here amending it because that's going to be a deficiency. So we won't have special projects person, Mr. Wolf.
I mean, it sounds like the records coordinator, it was for a special situation.
Yeah.
So we just need a start and end date for the position.
Start and end date for what, Ms. Tam?
For your, records coordinator. Which I know you said after the end of this project, really her role will be done until the audit
Yes.
fine, right?
Yeah, the concurrent, the other audit is due December the
Yeah.
31st.
I think just time frames, give a time frame on positions, I think that will
Okay,
probably
now.
get it.
With send it to me in writing. That's what I did. So she granted that. So now, what is the next thing? Please grant us another extension, because deadline dates do matter. I did ask, where does that technically place us? Out of compliance.
Well, I got one other question, Mayor. I just got one other question. We tabled this last time, right?
Yes, sir.
We tabled last time. The reason we tabled was the same kind of problem that we had. And I'm wondering, I think, kind of, should have been reached out, we should have all came to some kind of agreement on these positions way before now, if it was tabled last month. Because I'm all for passing this, but I was not here at the previous meeting, so I'm coming back. It was tabled at the last meeting, but it was tabled for the very same reason, and nobody reached out and we tried to come together and see what was causing it to be tabled in the first place. So this is the exact same form that was in when it was tabled the first time.
Josh reached out.
I requested information, didn't get it, but anyway, just passed in. I could have a whole lot of it, I got it. Can't take enough of it to give it to me. He's not thinking of it to give it to me.
Mr. Jones, point of information. What would happen if this is tabled for another 3-4 days?
It's the discretion of GOSEP to decide if they want to initiate processes to determine that we're non-compliant. And I don't know what the outlook window for those processes are, but they have to initiate the process to deem us non-compliant. I will say this, for any issue with what the titles are in there, special projects coordinator is only when you go through the policies, it's only mentioned once in there, and it's only mentioned in connection with that the engineer will meet with the mayor and special projects coordinator. There's nothing in there that the special projects coordinator is actually coordinating or doing other than that. Otherwise, it says department heads or the mayor or the city clerk, titles that we formally have that have always existed that we have had occupied. So if there is concern about the special projects coordinator title being in there and maybe that job not existing later on, that's only in one section, and it's only says one line in all the policies that you're adopting, and it says that whenever the engineer gets the plans, they will meet with the mayor and the special projects coordinator. So there's actually no duties conveyed to the special projects coordinator in these policies, and there's no sole decision-making authority in the policies.
So I got one other point of information, just trying to get to where we can come to some kind of understanding. So, Rita asked you about the charter, when I say create new jobs. So I think this will be all solved. If this position doesn't have to come before the council, in this position, do we have to vote on, whoever the person is put in the position? If not, then you got a problem, what I'm saying, because
Of what?
this special project person, whoever, whom she or he may be.
Well, no, it's not an official, they're not an official, they're not one of the officials that's come before you.
Well, see, that's the problem. Now, you don't have any say-so, what you're saying, you don't have any say-so of who's appointed there, right?
Correct, but it's like any official, you only get confirmed, but what I'm trying to say is the only thing these policies ever mention a special projects coordinator is in one sentence of one paragraph, and it's when the engineer is presenting the plans to the mayor, that's it. They don't make any decisions.
I'd like to withdraw my motion and reframe it. I'd like the motion to read as follows. I'd like to make a motion that this be tabled to December 19th, and meanwhile, the mayor make a request in writing and forward a copy to the council as soon as she get an answer from the young lady she requested for extension. And send us a written copy of her request. I think she said the young lady said had to be a written request. A written request. And then we'll take this up on the 19th of December. Nobody wanna lose money, nobody wanna do anything wrong, but everybody at least wanna have understanding. Did you get the motion?
I've got it now.
That's what I said. Well, she chairman. Pro Tem, I'm sorry. Pro Tem. We meeting over with Pro Tem.
Got a motion.
We gotta wait.
Wait to come back?
What's council ready to come back?
Wait.
We'll let Paul look at it.
You wanna wait till they come back?
So y'all got a recess, what about the purchase director? Is that a job that y'all don't have to
Text people.
fill?
And you talking to John about he may come out there, I don't know.
Mr. Jones,
Yeah, I'll come over
the
there.
purchase director, is that a job that the council members don't have to fill?
No, I don't think it's one that's spelled out in the charter.
It's in the plan of action.
Correct.
It's in the plan of action, the purchase director, the purchase, coordinator, it's some, so those are jobs that
Yeah,
they don't have to do.
yeah, that's what I was talking about. The form of the things is not, it's the title. If you're all thinking, the titles is what you want to go at, is you put that title, so that, I understand.
She should say who these positions do. I don't think they have a purchase director. Most of the clerk thing. That's what they do.
Yeah, but that's it, so it's really not like a
Okay, I have a suggestion. Okay, that's okay. Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It's a deal with the records coordinator position. We know that her job is complete with this. So I say her service is in with this. Now, if she needs to be brought back in another capacity, then you should come before us so we can approve it. If you need her for the audit, you should come back before us. That way it won't create so much discrepancy and hard feelings that positions were created without the council. Then you bring her back temporarily for another position.
I appreciate that suggestion, because really this is very important. But how do you take something that's a volunteer through a confirmation process as if, Mr. Jones?
No, but she's done this job. That's what you needed her for.
Okay.
She's done it. She's completed.
Actually, what she did, Mrs. Tappan, she pulled documents. Okay, those first pages were the responses. After you see that Governor's Office of Homeland Security, 1, 2, 3, 4. The rest of this was already here. So that was how we satisfied that, look in different places. associated, and I learned a lot just in this, like loads of stuff, and the tonnage of it, and where it had to be taken to, and how it had to be disposed of. Somebody had to be put there to be responsible, that this person is gonna see after that. And I think if you look at determination one under the direction of the appointing authority, policies have been updated and prepared for adoption at the regular meeting of the mayor and council on November 14th. That was gonna be our first regular meeting. The appointing authority tasked retired clerk to work with the present clerk, because to put something like this in the new clerk's hand, we're gonna be
I
devastated.
understand, yes, ma'am, but now it's submitted and her job is in. So if we can move on that, people might agree.
So basically, is that, you would like to see the volunteer
Yes, ma'am.
gone.
All right, because this project is complete, and then you bring her back if you need it. But separate the two, between the audit and these findings, just separate. Her job is complete.
And for some reason, she can't come by, what can the city of Bastrop do then? Just hypothetically speaking, she may come up with Alzheimer's or some illness or something. I'm just wondering, I'm just hypothetically speaking, if she gets sick, have a stroke, it could happen to either one of us tonight, what do we do there? I'm just thinking, yeah, well, the city stop operating? That's just a question, I mean, we all, tomorrow not promise anyone.
And being,
Just a question.
okay, I'm gonna say this, in being true to my oath, before I let the city, on my watch, get into a situation where I know with the federal government that that's gonna create a problem. If that's what you like, I'll ask the clerk to,
No, not to,
not clerk,
not,
the volunteer.
right, but
I'll ask.
we're just trying to make timelines. The job is complete as far as the GoSep project. Not saying she can't do another project, but I think if we make clear timeline definitions, I think it would be quicker to pass this. Her job is complete as of this, with this project.
Yes, the only thing, she pulled these documents from the page,
Right.
so that I could go back and address the law for the contemporary present.
Okay, because I don't know, we need to figure it out, because we don't want to lose, we do not want to lose any more money.
All right.
That's all I can say.
Okay, and I appreciate that, Ms. Tamm. Let's do this. We have a new clerk that's pulling double duty. How will that affect your operation? Because we are still trying to, and I already know, we're approaching December the 31st for the audit.
So will this
I know.
position end, just say April of next year?
Oh, no.
So-
No, December the 31st, that audit has to be, this is how my whole week is.
So that's gonna be the extent of her volunteering time?
I think so. You think you could deal with that?
What was the question?
Just other than calling and saying, where is this and how, because I do have to think about the ripple effect. If she's able to call and say, where is this, because there are a lot of things that go through that office. And offloading some of it,
So you telling us December 31st, that's the timeline?
that's when the last audit is due.
Okay.
And the auditor has expressed to me that in order to get it out, we don't wanna have another, we got everything back on track. We don't wanna have another delay, cause she can pull or direct. She doesn't have authority
so, can we all reach out to the mayor and state our concerns, so that way when we come in, we'll have,
We'll be ready.
so we gotta be, at this point, we all gotta be transparent.
Right.
You can call me. Mr. Green, you call me all the time. We
Yes.
talk.
I do. I haven't called you lately, I mean.
But, I know you can call me, you know?
Yeah, we talk all the time.
At this point,
We've been on this too long.
and to be perfectly honest with you, I'm very uncomfortable with asking for another extension.
But do you have to ask?
You have
The
to
next-
look at it.
Because they are waiting, okay, and you've read it, just read through it. It's, and as far as the timeline, Ms. Tappan, the audit working fast and furious to get that in on December 31st, and those documents are still being pulled for Mr. Maxwell, because, so December 31st.
Well, I'm good with the timelines.
Okay. Thank you.
So, what we gonna do, y'all?
I still ask for a motion that was stated to the 19th of December. Because I have questions I can't ask here, Mayor, so I can call them, maybe I can call them. I still have questions, and I don't want to drag this no longer than I feel, you know. And that'll give Mr. Locker a chance to look at it too as well.
Mr. Reese, we have money working at state, and we have,
19.
what do you have a
A
disaster?
week from today, huh?
Let's think about that, and if we're out of compliance, that's something you have to think about. If there, and I'm gonna,
And I understand.
It's like, you know, we've been out of compliance, but we've been receiving.
see what has been recognized, you know what, I'm gonna tell you, and I'm glad you said that, Mr. Green. It's kind of like a pothole. I know this is gonna sound corny, but it's the truth. A pothole, the way our insurance handles it, if we have not been notified of it, the insurance says we don't have to pay it. But once a pothole has been reported, and you don't do anything about it, then it creates another situation, correct, Mr. Jones?
Yeah, there's a notice element.
So, we've been notified now.
Oh, so what you're saying, we haven't been notified prior to that?
They didn't know before this.
I mean,
Well, I think some, either second it or fast and move on to the next summer, whatever gonna be done.
all right.
We look at each other, and get nothing done.
Mr. Bradford made a motion, Mrs. Tappan made, gave a scenario, what she feels. What is your pleasure? Okay.
I mean, I said I was good with the timeline, if the job ends, December 31st, I'll be okay with this.
Okay.
I just need a timeline.
The timeline
On the employee's position.
okay, talking about the employee position, okay. I don't have a problem with them.
Volunteer?
Yeah, she talking about that.
Volunteer, that's cool, that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
Ms. Tappan,
Yeah, we can put up with it, but on to the youth.
that's the statement. Personalizing something. Okay. There's no second to the motion, okay, Ms. Tappan?
Let me make that motion again, please. Well, I don't think the motion was addressed properly. There was a second, we need a vote on that motion, huh?
Was it a second?
Yeah, that was a second from me.
Which one?
Not the second
Oh,
time.
not the
Not the
well,
second time.
Yeah, there was the first time, not the
Yeah.
second. You rescinded that one, so you were on your first.
Okay,
So
yeah,
then
right.
went to
And
that
after-
one.
Right,
And I
okay,
think-
okay, you're right, that's right.
And I think,
We just amended rather than,
yeah,
term I wanted you to amend, but go ahead.
I think
We
to
can take the
expedite it,
technicality.
what I was hearing is that, Ms. Tappan was trying to make a motion that, correct me if I'm wrong, to approve the resolution I'm just trying to speed along.
with this
I'm sorry, go ahead.
resolution, if we can put a timeline on the volunteers' activities.
Correct, so that is, motion to amend the resolution to add in the statement that the records, what's the title? Records coordinator title, whether volunteer or employed, would discontinue on December the 31st, is that the date?
That's it.
Hey, okay, so, can I make a statement before we get carried on? Can we see, because like I said there, I don't think we can go past 9 p.m.
I've looked into it, there's nothing there. There's Robert's Rules of Order, there's nothing in state law over it. He did message me asking about the 9 o'clock rule. There's nothing, there are sometimes boards that set time limits on things, and you can by motion of the board say.
The reason I said that because I remember last administration doing this kind, we left all,
9 o'clock?
yeah, we left before 9.
Now, that was probably something, because, you know, like, it's always be a filibuster. You know, so
Yeah.
Filibuster can go on.
Yeah,
and
so
on and on.
what you can do as a board, you can set your rules. You can also make a motion to a set time to adjourn.
The reason I said it because Mr. Lockton wanted said he was like, hey, we getting close to time, we can go past.
I
He
can't-
can wait for me, so.
I can't find it in the charter, but I do need to look one other spot, because I was looking.
I just wanna make sure, cause you know,
Yeah.
last time I was a meeting, I got a letter.
We need to call it joint. We're doing everything. Come back in, sure.
But I don't.
Trying to get him no trouble. Yeah, like, but, yeah, I know Mr. Lockton, he stopped the meeting doing one of Mr. Cotton long conversations.
Yeah.
And he said that we cannot go past that. I thought that was something that said before I got here. No, look,
That's around the meeting.
So where we at?
There's
Like 3 more minutes.
I got a question.
I'm gonna step outside until y'all find out.
I have just a question before we take a vote on Wednesday.
I don't find it anywhere in state law or your ordinances, but
Well, we
I also understand the situation that arose during that time, and probably through the nice talk.
It wasn't just one time. It was like a.
But you can from the outset set by rule, you can say, hey, I make a motion that we set time to adjourn at X, and then you adjourn it.
I like to make a motion that we follow the rule that's been going, and it's 9 o'clock. I mean, of course, yeah, on my watch. But anyway, I had something I wanted to ask you a question about. I'm so glad before we get to the vote. That's no matter mine.
Madam Chairperson, where are we at on the vote? Where we at on the motion, on the votes?
We never did get a motion, do we?
Yeah, his died, where Ms. Tappins, I was trying to summarize what I thought it was possibly trying to go
Well,
on.
finish up your summary so we can kind of move on, because we've been
I believe Ms.
stuck and
Tappins,
stagnated.
Ms. Tappins
I had a
In the resolution.
had stated an amendment was voting, was making a motion. Was
In the
making-
resolution, can you add the statement,
Correct.
that's where?
Yes, so in the resolution,
What page is that on this? Again? Oh, he gonna amend and add this?
yeah, so I have it typed, and I'm gonna type it right here. It'd be a motion to approve the resolution with the amendment that the records coordinator position, volunteer or otherwise, would expire on December the 31st, 2024.
And I would like to, if I can add to that.
Yeah, give him an opportunity to see what he thinks, so we can get this done.
Give it to him. Thank you. That's good.
Okay, what about the treasurer? I mentioned something about the treasurer, it's not mentioned in her position, not mentioned in this resolution. We don't have a treasurer position. We got a lot of other positions mentioned, but there's no treasurer mentioned in there.
That goes to policy.
Can we add that into,
Well, they would have to substitute it in somewhere in the policies.
I mean, but we make an amendment, to,
We're just making an amendment to the resolution, not to the policies.
this resolution do do not mention the clerk, the treasurer, a treasurer position in here.
I
Now,
think,
we should get ready to submit something, we clarifying the, project manager, coordinator manager, but again, my concern was again, why don't this resolution mention a position of a treasurer in here, when we have a position of assistant clerk, which we don't have, assistant, purchase agent, agent, we mention all these positions, but we don't mention a clerk, a treasurer, excuse me. I just wonder how are they gonna accept this, and say, who's the treasurer of this operation?
okay,
I'm just asking, I've never seen a corporation without a treasurer, or anything without a treasurer being submitted. Somebody holding two positions again, so, at one time, somebody had three. One person heard treasurer, tax collector, and treasurer.
Then,
I'm
Mr.
just
Jones,
asking.
we include some, we
But
you
you know,
see, you have to have segregation of duties, so I think that it's
That's what I'm
crossing
saying.
up some things.
what's the difference?
If the type disaster happens here, the logistics that's already in place in the office will take care of that. But this satisfies what they were asking for. And, okay, so,
And then maybe too, in the future, in the near future, we can create a disaster plan. And that could include some of the, no, that was just the responses. But you could do like a disaster plan. And that would, and if you needed to include positions like treasurer in that disaster plan, and that's what you would have set for next time.
okay.
Because he's concerned about the treasurer.
All under the
Yeah.
umbrella of the sheriff's office with the Homeland Security.
Okay.
But this was generic to the city.
Right.
With the situation, the prevailing situation that led us to this.
On the record, it's after 9 o'clock, and the record states, we're meeting after 9 o'clock, just in case, someone wanna challenge whatever takes place after this. Man, that's on the record, that be placed on the record, let's get some clarity, man, Mr. Bradford is putting the council on notice that we have met our 3-hour limit, and, that's one on the record stating that, that give anybody who made some other citizen, whatever law, our research when we get home, and see, we're in compliance with the meeting rule. I just make sure that's placed on the record, and then note on the record that it has been brought to the council and the mayor's attention.
We have a couple of other things, I think if we work through this quickly, we got, liquor license, holiday, do you have a long list?
I think it's still a motion on the floor.
Yeah, you still have your motion on the floor.
Okay, there's a motion, is there a second? Okay.
My motion was to accept the resolution, and just put,
Okay,
yeah, accept the resolution,
And put the
and put
expiration.
the expiration date of the clerks, of the volunteer clerk's position.
Did you second, Mr. Green? I did.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose.
Record, roll call.
Mr. A, Mrs. Packard.
Yes.
District B, Mr. Bradford.
No.
District C, Mr. J. Green.
Yes.
District D, Mr. D. Green.
Yes.
District E, Mr. Locke. It carries.
Okay.
Next item.
Well,
Nine B.
discuss City Hall repair, Mr. Hall.
I didn't take it down, it's too much. It's good, obviously.
Order. Discussion, City Hall repairs, report, American Rescue Plan and insurance. Ms. Tappan, I think you brought up at the last meeting, you're concerned about the City Hall repairs, and we have an update as it relates to the,
The insurance.
insurance company. I'll pass that out to y'all. Basically, their response was that it was the age of the building. We didn't have an actual weather event to clarify for it, so they said they denied the claim.
That's what, I'm sorry, that's what,
Yes,
who denied, the insurance denied it?
the insurance company.
Who was the signature of the insurance company? Who made that decision?
The letter that you gave me is what they sent me,
The letter I gave you.
that I gave you.
You just gave me.
The documentation I gave you is what
Okay,
they
but who
sent
signed it,
me.
who's the agent? Who's the person, every bank got to have a signature on it. Just, I know that many don't have not being signed, I want to see a signed document, sir. This should easily be orchestrated.
I can only give you what they sent me.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go against this too because, I'll take it for what it's worth. But, let me say, do I have a contact person on here we want to appeal? I'm not sure you say this, I just want to.
Yes, I contacted Travelers,
Okay.
and Travelers contacted me and sent the adjuster.
Come on, somebody got to sign off on something unless they say this. I'm not quoting you, Mr. Man, this is ridiculous. Come on, let's go to the next one. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, the insurance,
Before we go to the public, again, I want to go on the record, this was submitted after 9 p.m. our time, and it shouldn't be accepted in this opinion, in this meeting.
okay,
It's now 9:10 p.m. We can go.
are you ready to leave?
I'm ready to do business, I do business. Okay. I'm strictly business, Ms. Oliver, strictly business. I'm losing, he made it.
But, Mr. O, to answer this question,
Pardon?
Ms. Chapman raised a question, her concern about the repairs to the
I didn't hear the question, I'm sorry.
No,
This
it was
is an
last time.
update that addresses Ms. Tappan's concern from the last meeting about the repairs to the city hall. Just give the status.
The status is we have received, the bids from the engineer. Basically, we're ready to move forward if the council's ready to accept the bid. And they can issue the contract document.
Do you have time to do it? Do you have time to do it? Okay. You had to want to come back with me, I thought he bid it out. I didn't know that. That's $750,000.
The bid, and Devon's not here to address it, but the bids came in, and the actual awarded bid was to, let me get my glasses on so I can read it. Was to Triad Maintenance Services out of Ruston, Louisiana at $473,000.
Three bids? Was 3 bids?
Oh, yes, ma'am, they had more than, they had 7 bidders,
7.
yes.
7 bids, that was the lowest bid?
That was the next to lowest bid. The lowest bid was thrown out, and I'll have to let Mr. Jones, explain that part of it. But that's the next lowest bid.
What was the lowest bid, even though it was wrong?
300 and, looks like 378,000.
Now, what was wrong with that bid, Mr. Jones?
The lowest bid, it was a non-conforming bid. They had, so whenever you let stuff for bid, you have your request for proposals. There was required items that were required to be put in there. They actually notified the individual that, hey, your bid's not conforming because it lacks this item on it that was required in the request for proposal. That individual, I think it was, and I talked with Chris Patrick about this on Tuesday. He said, yes, we notified him, and he said, well, you know, it wasn't an issue, it's not an issue, it was in the calculation, but not in the top page, and then he didn't calculate for it, which would cause the bid to be off, and cause his bid to be the lower bid.
Okay, we had to wait on another third bid, or that, I mean, that.
No, you can always just say, we're not gonna accept the lowest bid because it's non-conforming, and then accept the other bid.
Okay,
The next
we
lowest.
don't need to bid it out again to get a third bid.
No, and short and simple on bid law is you can reject a bid for any reason that you find to be a valid reason, and just accept that.
I'm saying, but we do not have to bid, we don't need three bids. We
You don't have to.
can work with the two, what I'm saying.
You can.
Choose one out of the two.
Yeah, we have more than three, we had like 7 bids.
We only had 7 bids, those were 3 lower.
Yeah. But if you only got 2 bids, you can still work with it.
And how long did it take them to get those bids in? Is the time limit they had to get them in, or what?
They had after the engineers put all the documentation out, got them out to the bidders, and then they had a timeline on when they had to be back in, and they opened them up in their meeting, and then they tabulated them, and then sent us the file.
Why I had to be there? What's the status of the Mac Bridge bids? They were sent out 2 or 3 months ago, we haven't heard anything, no, they were sent out.
They haven't gotten their bids back yet.
How much time,
I don't know what the engineering timeframe is. They were working on some documentation the last I talked to them. So hopefully, in the near future, they'll
Another
get
year?
ready.
Another year or so?
No, hopefully not.
I just wonder.
Any other questions?
Again, I still don't reckon that at 9:15, what you just presented is outside of the law, the time frame. I just want to go notice on the record again, at 9:15, all this business is out of order. I just want to go on the record, because I will be looking into the time frame. I ain't gonna make it no secret.
But we having another call meeting next week, so I think it'd be best to vote on it.
You can vote on it then, yeah, that'd be
I
fine.
think
We
that'd
still
be
be within
best.
the time frame.
You know, it's been something after 9.
Okay, what's
Is
it?
there a motion to
I make a motion to adjourn,
adjourn the meeting and add
add it to our next meeting,
And the unfinished business goes next year.
to our next meeting.
Oh, the chief, well, it's after 9, he had to come back to it. I guess.
Okay, this is the holiday season. Mr. Chief Reed,
You wanna keep that?
Chief Reed,
Man,
how many liquor licenses do you have? 6.
you want me to read them all?
Okay, I know it's getting to be the holiday season.
Well, I need to make a motion to reconvene?
Okay, what,
I don't know if y'all voted it yet.
No, we
Just
didn't.
rescind your motion.
I rescind my motion.
okay. Are you leaving?
Hmm?
Well, if Mr. Bradford leaves, you won't
Law
have
full.
to vote on the liquor license. Okay, with this being the holiday season, and I know sometimes it gets okay, these are renewals.
Yes, ma'am, they're renewals. I have 6 of them. L&L Stop and Save Incorporated, 1001 East Madison, Class A. Jill Stop number 5, 741 Collinston Road, Class A. Prime Time, 924 Luther, Class B. Dad Sports Bar, Class B. Louisiana Discount Tobacco, Class A. And Circle K Stores Incorporated, 1514 East Madison, Class A.
We don't have a quorum.
Are they already signed, those liquor licenses,
Marissa's supposed to have sit in front of you all, in front of you all.
You see it?
I see it on the big, it's here. Yeah.
I wanna make sure you know.
They're good, they're all good until the 31st.
Okay.
I can't find one law that says the time limit.
Okay.
How you pass along?